We are indeed live now. Welcome.
Hi.
I have a man with me,
A man
former president of the United States.
carrying with him two audacious feet.
Ah, okay. We have a request for us to join one of the voice channels so that people who live obs can grab the audio.
Oh, okay.
Very good. I guess we'll hop into
Sure.
that, yeah.
Hi.
Okay. Kian is deafened. I don't know if that's server side. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. I'll ping neblime so we can get this show on the road here. So since we're actually able to do this live, which is, I wasn't actually sure if that would be the case, it'll be good because it means that people can check it out live even if they are not in the lobby. It looks like he'll be watching on the stream. So.
Our first set a good time for me.
Right, yeah.
Oh. Sorry, is this constant chat?
Yo, what's up?
What's up, dude? This is
stream or-
caster chat, so yeah,
Oh,
stream chat.
Am I?
Should we be muted?
Yeah, I guess we can just go into Smashing Station in that case. That way it'll auto mute.
Yeah.
There we go. Easy.
Oh,
All right.
Easy clap.
Although Neblime, if you're watching the stream, it might be better for you to be in the like this is mostly just because Kian's live watching in OBS, so he wants to avoid getting the double audio from the stream basically, but we'll see what it doesn't really matter. We'll see what's up.
Maybe he likes double audio.
Yeah. It is posted. I guess I probably should have pinged, but that's fine. I'll just go ahead
It's
and
okay, he's keeping it real.
yeah.
There you go.
Easy.
There's the crow.
There is a crow. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video playback on all this so that I'm not getting owned. 'Cause I'm sure that'll just eat up my system. All right. Yeah, that's true, Beaver. Cosmonarchy War. So the Beaver is actually going to be participating in the 9 p.m. set. That's in about 6 hours from now. It should leave us plenty of time to see what happens here. So our first matchup is Benno versus Mystery Meat. I don't know who this guy is, but it's Excelsior. I'm sure that'll go. Oh, see ya.
Oh, he's gone.
he did not know that was what was happening here. Okay. Ready, homies. There you go. That's my very, very illiterate.
So Benno is a new player.
He is,
Who just
yeah.
showed up very recently. I normally would say that Mystery is probably one of the strongest players of the group that we have, but from what I understand, he hasn't been playing very much, and there's been a lot of changes since then. So
That is true. As we
it's
kick
the new
off,
blood versus the old blood.
it's very much the case. That is the narrative here. We'll go ahead and set the latency up for them. And we do have Mystery Meat in the top right hand. The lovely Cosmic Cobalt color. Meanwhile, Benno, Coyote Brown. I think he was a similar color in our test, so that's kind of funny. And we already see a bit of a difference here with one worker on gas for Benno. So that'll be interesting. Obviously in Cosmonarchy Brood War, since I imagine some people will be checking this out for the first time, we can probably take it nice and easy in this Terran versus Terran and just talk a little bit about some of the changes. So most notably here, we can harvest gas without needing a cap. And that obviously unlocks a bunch of different strategies for deciding to go for early tech. And since in the Terran case, you can build your fulcrums, our name for the factory, without requiring a stockade, our name for the barracks, then you actually don't have to worry as much about going straight up. And he's actually going to go for a fast quarry. That's a very interesting economic play, where obviously Mystery Meat, on the other hand, is going for the stockade early.
Yeah. So Benno is looking for something very aggressive because the quarry will give him another Q to be able to build masons with, which means double worker production.
That's definitely the case. And, it's interesting because obviously it locks out your ability to produce Masons from the Ministry itself while it's building. But if you don't spend your minerals on more workers initially, you save up for a bigger purchase, it seems. So, and you can see it right now immediately. We do indeed have the double production. We will see our players' little cameras in the minimap as well as their selection. So we get to see what exactly they're thinking at any given point. And we do have the first scout happening, notably not something that Benno was too interested in
Benno
doing.
has not scouted. Now he's sending one out.
There you go. Yeah, so aside from the fast quarry, it's kind of even. Obviously, we have a worker count in the top right-hand corner. There's no supply in Cosmonarchy Brood War. So what you see here is the big number on the left is the worker count, and the 0 and 1 are the military count. So Mystery Meat does have a Cyprian out, which is a new Terran bio unit. Very effective at killing everything, especially if you put them in anchors, as you're well aware, Mesk.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, plus the anchors, being the bunker replacement, can fly in Cosmonarchy Brood War, which offers up all kinds of amusing cheese.
Wouldn't
be surprised if we see a lot of that within these matches.
Yeah, it might be one of those things that we actually, come to think of it, I was going to say, he might even... No, the height advantage there as the ramp transition gave the Cyprian a little bit of extra range necessary to punish that. Obviously, at the same time over here, we see a Mason Corpse. Another lovely little addition that we were able to get into the game, and tells you that Benno has had his worker fallen. I'm not sure if he scouted the Treasury, which is a cheaper alternative to the Ministry that you can use to, take pace. It doesn't train Masons, so you would need an added attached quarry, which eats into your gas a little bit, in order to get another worker queue. So at this point, even though he's got the expansion, he's fallen behind in workers quite, I wouldn't say super considerably, but he's down 3 workers right now, which is, a very all-important number.
Starpad. That is coming from Mystery Meat, so we're possibly going to see transports, or possibly going to go for wraiths. Maybe he wants to scout, since he's not going to have many eyes on the map otherwise. But Benno is not really going heavy on gas. So I'm curious if... Yeah, he's taking an expansion himself as well. The Cyprian's only just being a deterrent at this time. No feat yet.
No feat yet, but there is a Hurakan. And Hurakans, our name for the Ahmed, is... let's just say that they have a pretty good set. Now, this is a change that happened before, somewhat recently, so you may not have seen it. But we changed how the Apolyoid adhesive, the burn effect, actually works. Instead of dealing damage over time, it rends armor for every stack. So what you'll actually end up seeing, it can basically unlock the potential for lower armor pen units, such as the Maverick, our replacement for the Marine. And that ends up working out quite well as a synergy between them. But also, of course, they can do quite a bit of damage when used with drops. It's going to be a Wraith first, so Mystery Meat will be able to scout. Permacloak works a little bit differently in CMBW. You don't have cloak via energy, so instead Wraiths are basically... they're almost like a little bit faster harassment-oriented witnesses or observers, if you're more familiar with the original term. And so if you're not paying keen attention, you could just theoretically get scouted without even really noticing, which could obviously be quite an advantage for Mystery Meat in this particular matchup.
Yeah, but Benno doesn't have really any armor to begin with, so the armor shred's not going to be too useful at the moment. He's probably going to notice that now it's scouting it out with a Wraith, and Benno is just going to be marching forward with those Cyprians, not having any scouting at all on what's going on in Mystery Meat space. Now he has an Anseal up, so...
Yes, that's right.
I think that trade will definitely go in his favor.
Oh, there's an idle Wraith here. It's actually going to pick off that Cyprian, so it took half of its HP and damage.
Disgusting.
It will indeed lose the next fight versus a Cyprian, but really that's just a question of, is that going to distract from the focus of Benno here?
Not quite an auto acquisition range of that Watchdog.
Right, yeah, just barely. Just going to continue waypointing around.
March of the Cyprian, single file.
Yeah, the response has to be very fast here. It's a little bit delayed from Mystery Meat, but he does have the Anseal. Now, the Anseal absorbs damage, but not splash, so depending on where those bullets hit, they can still damage the units underneath. And instead, actually, it's not going to matter too much. He had the much better positioning. Just ends up line damaging all of those Cyprians.
You do not want to single file against Cyprians.
Right. So we'll see what that means. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that you can say about Benno's position here is that he does have the tempo insofar as his units were on the other side of the map. So there's
His
not
worker
really...
count's also a lot higher.
Yes, yeah, he's stretching quite far ahead now with a third worker queue and another base on the way, going for yet another treasury. Obviously, the advantage being that if you go for ministries, our term for the command center, instead of treasuries, you can choose a more flexible add-on, so you can choose to go for missile silos in the mid-game once you unlock Tier 2. And that will allow you to build plenty of different things. Now, there's multiple ant seals here for detection and for protection. This could be a very lethal push, since there's still no anchors, but we do have a 5th stockade coming up, so defender's advantage with all the units being trained. I still feel like, depending on the positioning, Mystery Meat could be staved off here, but at the same time, this is a pretty scary attack.
This stands to do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
If Benno loses this expansion, it's gonna really set back all the gains he's had.
Right, especially
he's committed
since...
so heavily to bio at the moment that
right.
he needs that income.
Yeah, so it will be spotted out. The scramble is here indeed. I'm not sure if he's even played against ant seals before, so it is a a surprising unit to have in the arsenal if you're not familiar with it.
He's got way better positioning this time.
Yeah, that is true, and he can really take care of that top stack. It doesn't look like they were really adjusted, and so they're not even going to be able to kill the treasury. You even see the ant seals
a little bit of a kerfuffle there from Mystery.
Yeah, the ant seals themselves also falling. You can see the little double stacked scrap pile there, and there's even a mason here to repair the treasury. So another attack that was successfully fended off, but certainly could have been perhaps a little bit better.
Could have been a lot worse, yeah. He really needed to either pull back or engage all at once.
Right.
Getting separated and the ant seals getting too far ahead into all the splash, just one fatal misplay completely cost him there.
Now, he does have pretty good forward positioning, and he's got a nice spread of vision, right, with the Wraith in the mid-left and a bunch of Mavericks sort of idling around the map, checking expansions and stuff. There will be yet another attempt for Benno to take a 4th, which is very, economic.
10 HP Wraith scouting him out. That'll see the hard commitment to stockades, so he's going to know that it's just going to be all aggression.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of resources being banked comparatively by Mystery. The breakpoint, he's a little bit far away from it, but he will be able to drop an Atlas soon. So that is probably what we're going to be looking at. Maybe a bit more defensive play, get into an area that Benno, as a newcomer, hasn't actually really played that much. And so, as a result, if he's going to stick hard commit to Tier 1 bio, well, maybe the answer lies in further up the tech tree. And we do have the first anchor of the game.
He's going to need to commit hard to his attack.
Yes.
Because if Mystery gets to Tier 2, and I'm pretty sure he's banking to that, Benno's going to need to commit everything he's got to being as aggressive as possible at this moment, but he kind of is being a little timid at the moment, sending an unnecessarily large number of units to deal with this sole Maverick.
Yeah. Depending on their fateful pathing, they might end up walking into the Wraith here, but as actually a high HP one as well. Fresh one right next to it. So they're going to just be watchful here. In fact, they might even intercept the Mason before. Yeah, the pathing actually makes it happen. Now, it's only one of them, and it's not going to stop it from... I don't think it'll stop it from completing the treasury, despite the HP. The
might
progress
just pass right into those Cyprians.
Yeah, especially depending on... We actually... something that goes unnoticed is the rotation of the Mason is consistent now. It's a consistent pattern in that box shape. You can see it on the treasury right now. So you don't have to worry about RNG deciding where you go. You can actually memorize the pattern in the early game, and as a result, play around that as both the owner of the Mason and anybody who's attacking it. So there will be some anchors now for Benno.
Is coming up for Mystery.
Very important.
It is being built in his expansion, actually.
Yeah, I was looking around for it. Is that his natural? Oh, yes, I see it. Yeah, the Atlas, a very important structure. It's a very expensive one, but it unlocks Tier 2. That gives you the option to go for, very high, power add-ons. You think of the Covenant, our name for the Covert Ops, that is added on to the Stockade. Unlocks the Eidolon, our name for the Ghost, as well as a new unit, the Savant.
Double Fulcrum.
Double Fulcrum to immediately start teching into, almost certainly that's going to be Palladiums, the add-on that is formerly known as the Machine Shop. Will give access to Phalanxes, aka Siege Tanks, as well as Madrigals, a fan-favorite new unit that many people are quite happy about. But yeah, it looks like we're going to get locked into a real nice macro game here, judging by the way that this early game is put together. We do have Benno scouting around the map and taking yet another base, so not a crazy amount of aggression from either player, mostly just sort of feeling each other out. And
Benno's kind of losing his opportunity here. He had a huge window to punish Mystery Me after Mystery fumbled that attack, but he's not even really scouting out, like really probing to see where weak spots are. He's just going to bundle up all of his units here, and depending on where he goes, it could be an equal part of a disaster, especially since the Wraith just scouted them all.
Yep. Now, there are 3 anchors, a 4th one on the way, and they are full of Cyprians, but it looks like Benno has his sights set on the top left, which means he's going to flank
bypass
over.
these defenses.
Yeah, that's right. And, I just hope he doesn't make the mistake, potentially, of trying to stand and fight.
There's one on the cliff there.
Yep, and that means that's cliff advantage plus anchor range advantage, so you get plus 4 range on those Cyprians, which already by default have 6 range. That's a 10 range attack. You can see how far that projectile actually goes. And this could be very, very bad in terms of positioning. He's already lost 5, maybe 6 Cyprians here in a second. There it is. And actually, that's a 7th. Oh, man, his units. He's fighting them. And so that's definitely going to be a change. He's clearly warded him off, but there's way more anchors over there. Now, the one thing you could say about Benno is that he has more workers by 15. Some of them are idling in his 4th, but he's got plenty of bases. He can start to saturate the geysers. He probably realizes now that he needs to tech up. And that's
he's
what
got a
we're
worker
gonna see.
waiting there. I'm pretty sure it's going to build an Atlas in just a moment. Yep, there it is.
There it is. Okay, so the clock has started. I think it's about 60 seconds for the Atlas build time. Meanwhile, there's really not much he can do versus all of these bunkers, these anchors, right? These are
Still
really...
holding a very strong worker advantage.
Yes.
Benno is, that is.
Yep, and if he transfers some of those in his 4th to his 5th, that can obviously work out pretty well.
Tank asset. The phalanx looks really nice now.
Yeah, it works out. We are seeing another skirmish down here, but it looks like all the Cyprians ended up boxing in onto those 2 anchors. You can see the advantage of the choke point plus the splash means that Cyprians are not great at attacking into positions as great as they are, defending them. And now that we have phalanxes
Benno's control is a little sloppy.
Yeah.
This cleric's going to walk right in there and die too.
It's a scouting cleric.
Yeah.
It just
had to make sure they didn't lift off.
Yes.
You can't trust those feet.
Yeah, that's true. Now, we do have the double phalanx push alongside the Anseal and a whole host of bio. This could be a very cool engagement here. The Wraith's even provoking another army movement. You said it earlier, he was sending maybe 10, 12 units out to the bottom right just to deal with a single Maverick, actually, in the 4th position, which he still has not evacuated from workers, by the way. But he will actually catch the Anseal.
There's 2 phalanxes here, but there is a lot of Cyprians on the map.
Yep. It looks like, I think just the phalanxes...
Benno is kind of getting separated here.
Yep, he's getting split up a little bit. Now, the positioning of the phalanxes is important. They are deploying. We are going to see the artillery with the parabolic strikes, and there's just not enough Cyprians. There's only clerics left on the right side.
Separated.
Yeah.
So many clerics.
Yep, and I think all of them are going to be splashed to death there as they start to fall back. There's more bio coming. Remember, there's 6, 7 stockades back at Benno's base. Yep. So we are indeed seeing the phalanxes fight. Now, all the bio has been cleared out. We should see this phalanx fall, even with the Anseal. It's not quite in position. 1 HP will do it. Any attack. Oh, he pulls back just in the wrong time.
Yep.
Don't worry, this one's coming in. Oh, never mind. Attacked the Anseal, I think. Or maybe got redirected. All right, well, somehow all of those phalanxes have
have to do
survived.
some damage now to get back the economic advantage because there is a 30 worker deficit.
Yes, it's quite significant, even though some of them are still in that 4th idling. The other thing to remember, too, though, is that there's
a lot of money in the bank.
Yeah, there's loads of minerals for Mystery, but there's also a fountainhead already unlocked over here. So that could transition into mantles or starports with the add-ons. Those are both very, very optimal things, and you could even go for captaincies if you have enough minerals. He is going to go for star pads, curiously enough. I wonder if he just wants a single piece of detection. Hopefully he hasn't forgotten that a starport is a different unit. Mm-hmm. And we do have a liftoff.
There's so many clerics.
Yes, they're
all
kind
healing each other. They're not helping his Cyprians.
They're kind of drawing fire, curiously enough. But yeah, I think at this point it's just there's too many clerics and not enough.
Oh my god!
What a massacre!
Oh, it's disgusting. Oh.
All right, well. If you don't know, clerics are useful at pretty much all stages of the game as long as you have ground armies because they don't have a restriction. Oh, no.
Meanwhile, in this expansion, this anchor has nothing in it.
No. Now, this is going to be rough. Yeah, a curious thing about Cyprians is that their kinetic penetration works that if they attack, say, the treasury, their bullets will be absorbed because they don't have the armor pen to pierce it. Meanwhile, obviously, with the Masons evacuating that way, they're ended up going to get wiped out here.
So many died.
At this point, we are looking at a very even game economically in terms of number of bases as well, but the tempo and map advantage, as well as the tech advantage, clearly in the favor of Mystery Meat. And
There's a lot of starports coming up for Benno, though. He might be able to make a play with them.
He could. It depends on how long it takes the anchors to crawl forward. He's already lifted them and landed them in the front line by all of his phalanxes. Curiously, he hasn't sent any healers or masons to repair, but I guess he might not need it at this rate. He's going to go ahead and start sieging that base. Kind of reminds me...
want to make a pincer attack here, and he's not going to have a lot of time to do it.
No, he's got a lot of Cyprians, but the problem is he needs a more mobile army. He does have Gorgons starting, but Cyprians can attack air units, and there are still Cyprians inside those anchors. Oh, no, maybe they were unloaded. It's not showing me the UI anyway, so...
Yeah, I don't see anything in those anchors. They moved down to the expansion.
Ah, I see. Meanwhile, there is an anchor with a cleric and a Cyprian in it, but in the bottom right, which is now actually the evacuation point for the surviving Masons. And Mystery Meat's still not ahead in workers, but he's definitely ahead in effective income. I love the Maverick popping in just to see what's going on.
I think the game at this point is traveling a little too fast for Benno. He's not entirely sure how to get control of the situation, and it's kind of showing some cracks in his momentum at this point. But I think he has a good idea with the Gorgons if he can just wipe out all those Cyprians and then snipe the tanks. Because there's a lot of tanks in the back that are completely undefended. If he was aware of that, he could just move around and snipe them before the Cyprians had a chance to move.
There's just not that many Cyprians, and so many of them are in the anchors anyway. Like, at that point, I think the Gorgons could just win. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also important to note, Gorgons have 2 armor, so you will not be able to splash too many of them unless they're really fully stacked up, because the first Gorgon hit will absorb it. So it will only deal local splash damage at that point. So, yeah, with 4 starports, all training, plenty of Gorgons, I feel like at this point...
There's a lot of phalanxes in Mystery's base. He's committing very, very hard to phalanx at the moment.
Interesting.
The air, I think, is going to be a very big surprise because he hasn't done any further scouting at this point with Wraiths.
Yes.
He kind of stopped scouting after he started pushing forward.
Yep, that is definitely the case. I'm curious if there's a fountainhead for
Benno.
Oh yes, yeah. That means that he can drop munitions bays for Sundogs if he wants to go on some raids. He's gonna start poking out with the Gorgons if he wants that instead.
Yeah, this is precisely what I expected to happen.
Yeah, and look at that. There's really not much of a response here. There are some Cyprians, but
oh no, he doesn't want to hang out when the Cyprians catch up. He's got a hit and run.
The GG is called. I feel like he was still in a position to do something, but that's going to be the very first shot there, fired across the bow, and Mystery Meat, it's the expected result, right? This is a situation where...
It's the experience change,
yes,
right? Like, once the game left Benno's comfort zone, you know, like when his attack was repelled, he wasn't really kind of sure how to catch up from that. I think he had a good idea by going into Atlas into Air, but, you know, it's still going to be something that's unfamiliar for him, precisely how to respond, like... You know, it's obvious to us, like when the Cyprians come up, don't have your stack Gorgons there, but it's going to be for him. It's going to be like, well, you know, he may have been using Cyprians the whole game, but that reflex there of just how vulnerable his air units actually are to them may not have registered immediately.
And with that, we are going to be moving on to our second match, where we're going to sub in Neblime. He's able to select the map from the map pool, so he can decide what map to face off against Mystery Meat. We will await his selection in a moment. I gotta admit, I was a little worried at how slow the game was, that we might end up getting absolutely owned by some technical issue. You know, the longer the game goes on, the higher the chances. But it's
it wasn't too bad because, I mean, we've had those long games before.
Yeah.
And a lot of the crashes that have been showing up over time have been getting addressed. Unless the new ones have been introduced, which I don't think has really been the case because there hasn't been anything super outlandish done on the low end since then. It sounds like you've been systematically squashing out a lot of issues as time has gone on. So I think it would be less common, though. At least, you know, if you do encounter some kind of technical issue and it's a Terran versus Terran, it kind of really helps you narrow down what's going on.
Yes, yeah. It's either a global thing or something awfully specific. Well, I have a funny anecdote to share with you. So a while ago, we had, when the new Phalanx was introduced around that time, a little bit before the new graphic was introduced, actually. There was
my first time seeing it.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. There's still some changes.
It's a big improvement. Like, the lighting and everything on it is so much more consistent.
Yes, yeah. And I love the more detailed animations with more steps in them, yeah. I was a little bit. I'm curious what you think of the walk cycle for in tank mode, because to me it looks like maybe there's a missing frame or something, but it's probably just because nobody else seems to be
more
complaining.
to me is that the Cyprian's on one angle when Mystery was moving them down left. Down left.
Yeah. Their player color was
like, almost
flickering.
like a flicker to them, right?
Yeah. I don't know what that is exactly. It's probably a scaling issue where we have to adjust. That's something I can talk with Solstice about most likely. He's been helping us out with that a lot. All right. But when the Phalanx stuff kicked in, we were updating all this stuff. We had I added in these unit responses, which we can't hear, but for a while we could hear, and I had to make it do a local player check, right? Now, I did the local player check for tank mode correctly. So when you would go from siege to tank mode, you would jump into, it would just work correctly or whatever. But in going from tank to siege mode, which is obviously the first one you do, would desync the game because it wouldn't tell you the player, it was only local. It would only run for the local player the unit ID transformation, which is just like such a boneheaded move by me. So I think technically release still has that issue. So that's pretty good. But obviously, I didn't catch that testing it in single player for obvious reasons. So.
It is, working with Unreal obviously I've done modding for decades, so I kind of understand the whole bug hunting and testing and unit testing stuff and everything like that. But getting into low-level stuff has been really educational, because when you're just doing modding, you don't even get to do bug hunting, really. You don't even get to do bug fixing. You don't even really get to do real debugging. It's when you start getting into dealing with low-level code, and getting into the nuts and bolts of stuff, that then you start exploring entirely new dimensions of what can go wrong for the silliest of things that don't seem so silly when you're dealing with them, because the very way in which you have to approach trying to debug them and trying to figure out what's going on completely changes.
Yeah. Definitely a fan of having more access to code, I'll tell you that much. So.
Absolutely. I can never go back to modding, for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, we are here for game number 2. It's Neblime versus the Mystery. And I will go ahead and edit my channel correspondingly. So we'll say...
This will be an interesting matchup, because it sounded like Neblime is one of those no hunters players, and probably has been playing fairly consistently regular Starcraft for an amount of time. Whereas a lot of people in our group, as far as I know, were not really super consistent players.
Yes.
And then they got into CMBW, and then we had bouts of play time, and it's been more on the downtrend in the last while. So while he may not be super familiar with the project, his technical ability may still be at least fairly competent. So you can see in the last game, Mystery ended up taking control of the game. But as the game got into the later half, you could start seeing a lot of weaknesses in his play. There was, idle workers, floating money and stuff like that. And he was queuing up a lot of phalanxes. He had to build a third fulcrum, and you would have wanted to build a little bit ahead of time. So a little bit rusty around the edges. Yes. Even though at the end of the game he was still fairly much in command of it. There was still, the tanks were out of position and stuff like that. So it's the playing field is a little more even than really what I expected it to be.
Yeah, and shout out to Benno for his first deployment here. I think that might be his first PvP game ever played. So, he's only been playing AI games up until this point, as far as I know, anyway.
I saw 2.5 upset smiley faces.
Yes, oof faces. I'm trying to remember which one that is. I think it's... There you go. Give you a wave and a... What's going on, Patrick? Welcome to the chat. Hey, welcome. Neblime, of course, was in here. Fagudo was in here. Knight of the Realm I saw. Knight of the Realm must be beside himself in a way. He was, he was dreaming of a CMBW tournament, and now we're doing it, but he's not playing. So, can you believe it? All right. We are starting off our map number 2. Remember, there's a maximum of 8, but presumably 7 maps. First 1 to 4 wins will top the group, and then we will play out the remaining games. So, let us talk about Neblime in the top left. You mentioned it earlier, Mesk. A no-hunters player, plays a lot of FFAs, does a lot of challenge runs. If you watch Greth SC on YouTube, you'll know that Neblime will announce a challenge run where he'll only build, Dark Templars and Dark Archons and Corsairs or whatever. He's just a goofball. Meanwhile, down in the bottom...
more accustomed to some bizarre game mutations.
Yes.
So adapting to CMBW for him shouldn't be too difficult as it might be for a regular player.
Yep. And we can see him spamming out his APM quite hard. He's like me. He's a man after my own heart.
Yeah,
Top right
this
there.
man does not fear arthritis.
Mystery Meat being much more composed in the bottom right-hand corner.
This man fears arthritis. He's much more concerned about his meat.
There you go. Well,
So TVT again.
TVT
Are
again.
all these players are Terran.
Yes, that's why the group name is called the Terratory.
All right, so this map here, I am not really. Is this a new map?
Yes, I
Or is
made
it
this
just
map
one-
somewhat recently, so you
Okay.
haven't been playing when it
Yeah,
was introduced.
I'm not
yeah.
too familiar with it. I'm just noting that you've got this high ledge right next to your main. It doesn't actually really go anywhere, but it does offer a place to plant your feet.
That is true. You can plant feet. You can adjust defenders' positioning. We do have a stockade opener once again from both players. Although Neblime notably did go the same build. He actually studied the way of the quarry, the opening quarry
Yeah.
here. So that's interesting. We will see a very temporary worker advantage for Mystery. The
Is
mahogany.
Benno
player.
also from No Hunters?
At the
or
very
is he-
least,
I don't
he's
know that.
he's got he must be in that Discord since he was talking with.
'Cause
Apparently
I'm just
talking
thinking,
with
you
Neblime,
know,
so-
they may like kind of like know each other's play style, and if
Yeah.
one sees the other had success with something, you'll be inclined to kind of like copy that. What I do notice right off the bat in both these games is that neither player goes for gas heavy. And,
That's right.
Like I always go for gas heavy, so I know the economic model now is a little bit different, but I still kind of expected to see a little bit more willingness to commit to more abstract things. Then again, I haven't seen Mystery play very much, so I'm not really sure if he's more of a bog standard player than I am or you are, for example.
Well,
It
you know
might
what I
just
notice
suddenly
about Mystery Meat's
weird
play?
things.
He really likes to sneak anchors, or he has some cheese strategies for him. I'm waiting to see if he pulls one of those out. He likes to put a
He's tanking right
stockade.
now.
He puts stockades in the in like the corner
Early
of the
treasury.
map. Yeah, and he'll just jump them in to your backline and build Harakans to snipe your workers. So he has done that before, and there are a couple of spots where that could be possible, but this map is a little bit tighter on that, so I don't know.
The is that terrain behind the main mineral line? You can land something on there, can't you?
All the way in the bottom right or top left, you mean?
Yep.
Yes, yeah. So technically it is buildable.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to land something there, but you could for example, put an anchor there. If you
I
can actually
absolutely
sneak
can
it in.
see you building an anchor off to the side,
Yeah.
lifting it over that ledge,
Yeah.
and then landing it on the back of there.
Yeah, if you look at where you would have to build it, it's like up the ramp for example, in the top middle.
Yeah.
That would be a spot. And then you'd have to lift it a fair bit, and you'd probably still be spotted by the harvesters, but maybe at that point it might be too late if it's not scouted. So yeah, we're seeing very respectful, honorable games so far. No cheeses.
Triple stockade out of
Yeah.
Mystery.
Very good. Very
but-
interesting.
Neblime has gone for a star pad.
Yes, this is neat because this is the first real divergence that we've seen, right? We have somebody going for a fast expo with the quarry after the treasury. This is the tempo play that you can do as Terran in the early game. Meanwhile, we have triple stockade out of Mystery so that he wants to clearly amass like a decent amount of forces to respond to that. But there's going to be a little bit of an awkward phase where he's maybe not as capable of answering back. At the same time, we don't see as much of a worker advantage for Neblime. Maybe not using the quarry to the same level of efficacy as the previous player Benno had. Something to think about. And the Wraith will be
I have
spotted.
a feeling that unless he's able to do serious damage with these Wraiths, there is going to be a timing push that's going to be very, very difficult for him to deal with.
Yeah.
And there is already a watchdog coming out from Mystery. And Mystery seems to have some inkling of what might be going on, or maybe some suspicion, or he scouted it. I don't think he had a
I don't
scout
think
up
he
there.
scouted it, but it's definitely curious because obviously this watchdog is nearly done. Now the Wraith is going to go ahead and pick off this secondary scout. A second one on the way, perhaps to intercept that as well. But he might not want to reveal that he has two Wraiths here. That's something that's a little bit curious he's going to do. Yep, I'm not sure if he noticed it. I don't think he saw that there was a second Wraith. But if he did, then he knows, oh, okay, well, I've got really nothing to fear. Otherwise, he might assume it's just a single Wraith scout. You know, I did that in the last map. Maybe he's kind of like taking a sampling. Now, there is an anchor on the medium ground here, south of Neblime's one stockade, as he takes his own expansion. He's going to be a little bit behind in terms of economics because his workers are more efficient. Mystery Meat's workers are more efficient at his natural, but he can transfer them over relatively quickly, and he's going to go ahead and go for some anchors in general. So he's going to be opting for a more defensive play and kind of calling out to Mystery Meat to maybe do something in the early game if he wants to challenge him.
He saw that expansion and figured, well, I guess I'll just expand and turtle up then. He's got 4 Wraiths out, but the Cyprians can very easily annihilate those if they're caught out of position, so he's going to have to be a little wary of that. Mystery may not be expecting him to commit too heavily to Wraiths at this point.
Yes.
It's not really that safe against Terran, but when you're dealing with people who are fairly new to it and, evidently don't even understand your playstyle too much, then they're much more likely to do things you might think as being slightly suboptimal. Those Wraiths will scout the Cyprians coming over.
Yep. There's also a second star pad that's trapped a Maverick for his ability to magic box. So that's interesting.
Now, Mystery's got a Mason there, so he might be looking to actually do some anchor proxying.
Yes. I think there's got to be some plan for that, right? Now, Masons can also repair organic units. There's no such real thing as organic versus mechanical anymore. So, you can imagine he's welding the armor or whatever. Now, this Mason will also scout that. And there is indeed an anchor to anticipate the early attack, but he can just go south and wrap around if he wants to. And actually, the Mason is maybe used as a scout instead of a proxy tool, so that's also fine.
The Mason saved him a lot of pain there, because if it was just the Cyprians, he would have lost a huge chunk of them to that ramp.
Absolutely. With the double star pad.
Now he's choosing a different direction here.
Yeah, he's going to walk right into another anchor. In theory, anyway. He can't go anywhere that isn't going to be protected by an anchor unless he wraps all the way... Oh, even if he wraps all the way around, it's not going to happen. Plus, he's been scouted by the Wraiths. Once he has 6 Wraiths, he can one-shot Cyprians. 7 Wraiths, one-shot Masons.
Oh.
So he can, weave around if they're occupied by something else now. You can even see the workers have been pulled. Try to repair. Not sure exactly how many Wraiths he has here, but...
This will deny the expansion mining too effectively for a little while, depending on how long he's able to camp here.
Yeah, counterattack coming out from the Wraiths in the meanwhile.
The Masons are trying to harvest.
You can see the new blue explosion graphic that happens when you actually cancel something, so you have a little bit of a read. Now, the question is, will the anchor... Yep, it will indeed lift off. So he's going to send that anchor to the skies.
Airborne.
Yeah. He's just moving it over a little bit, and it is actually going to be enough to kill off one of the Cyprians. Ooh, 2 of the Cyprians, in fact. He's going to wrap around here and just find another anchor. Not sure where those Wraiths went up. It's actually, they're just kind of patrolling the middle.
Mystery is having a bit of kerfluffle with his movement. His movement was going into the cliff there, so they decided to walk into the feet.
Yeah, classic Brood War pathing.
Meanwhile, Neblime is setting up a 3rd expansion in the middle of the map.
Very curious.
That is my kind of bullshit. I approve.
Yeah. Now, I think maybe his Wraiths, as they're on patrol, they might end up catching either the weakened 2 Cyprians to the right, or maybe they'll catch the 4 that are patrolling around. Doesn't look like it. They will actually find this one, so that's going to be 1 dead Cyprian. And then, of course, they can cloak and then attack the second one with impunity, considering it only has 20 HP, but maybe they didn't spot it. We do have a Cyclops coming out. So this is a mech unit that can attack with a decent amount of splash damage. So that's something to keep in mind.
There's actually a Mason from Neblime sitting at the expansion for Mystery, just staring longingly at his brothers.
Yes, I so wish I could join you and harvest, but... Now, if they were allies, you could actually return resources to the treasury.
Now, his Wraiths are coming over, seeing if they can make something happen, but 2 Cyprians are coming over.
Yeah, I think that's going to ward them off.
Yeah.
Maybe he can start disrupting the gas mining. Looks like he's going to try it. Getting used to the new attack cooldown. He's going to go ahead and pick off a couple of Masons here. Not bad at all. The feet are on the move, so that's actually going to... Well, if he knew that, he could have maybe used that to his advantage, picked off some more. There is an Atlas being put down here, almost halfway done.
To cancel that.
Yeah, he should be able to stop the mining, yeah. So that's pretty good. That's pretty, good tempo play, good scout. Now, meanwhile, I'm not sure that he's got one of his own. He does have a Trojan back at his base. It doesn't look like... It's actually got 2 Trojans. You got a bit of a lag spike there, but no big deal. So yeah, this is a good tech play.
If I start lagging, I'll have to tap out because it will be me.
Oh, I see.
Because my internet's Canadian.
Love that. Canadian exceptionalism. Mystery Meat, meanwhile, is going to go ahead and take yet another base. This one in the middle of the map, Neblime hasn't really saturated or anything. He does have the micro base that's right below his main, but it's not fully saturated. He's not using the gas. So this is where you can really see the fact that there's that geyser and ridge combo. Very valuable base if you intend to tech up. Once you actually have a baseline mineral income to support it. And we do have triple fulcrum at the natural. Drop will come on in.
3 Cyclops.
It's a curious wiggling there. He's going to go ahead and shut down the Masons here, but not a crazy amount of damage to be had.
A little annoying. He has to chase them all over there with his Cyclops, or his Cyprians rather. Not very fast.
No, yeah, and that is one of their key advantages, or disadvantages, I suppose, is that the Cyclops actually moves quite fast comparatively. Meanwhile, if you can drop them around. We even have some vultures laying lobotomy mines. Not lobster mines, lobotomy mines.
So the lobster mines act as a stun as opposed to damage. They no longer can be used to immediately wipe out the entire mineral line.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a sad day. But it's not going to be sad for Mystery Meat. He's going to go ahead and drop 3 palladiums. That's 3
That's right.
phalanx production queues once those come online. And I think he's got the economy to support that as well, especially once he gets a little bit more workers set up at his... we'll call it a third base, because this micro base
There
is
is
mostly...
no geyser capping going on at all.
Nope. It's 300 minerals now. So
Ooh.
a little bit of gas as well. So you for the
He's
same
got the
price as
minerals.
expanding. Yeah.
But I guess he's just going to bank it up. There's three phalanxes on the way. It worked last time. May as well try it now. But his opponent has already shown that he's willing to build air. So
Yes.
going to have to be a little more conscious about his placement this time.
Yeah. The Atlas is also nearly completed for Neblime. He's realizing, okay, I need to tech up here. Figure this out.
Also getting 3 fulcrums, but they're just producing vultures at the moment.
I forgot. I also forgot this, but I will assume the honor system and presume that nobody who's playing is also stream sniping. That would be pretty shit.
Yeah.
If you see them in the chat, banned. So, just saying. But so far, it doesn't look like that. I mean, these players have been kind of trading somewhat evenly. The most you can say is maybe Mystery Meat's Watchdog timing was a touch suspicious, but I don't. That's just something that you learn when you play the game.
I
long
always
enough.
do that anyway.
Yeah,
so.
And we do have the move out from the Triple Phalanx and the Cyprian Armada here. A couple Masons to come with it for repairs, presumably, or maybe putting down some Watchdogs for anti-air. There's no more lobotomy mines here for the Vulture. It will scout this, though, quite fortuitously. Give him a chance to maybe wrangle his units. He does have a whole host of wraiths on the wrong side of the map right now. He's going to go ahead and scramble to see, indeed, there are phalanxes. He's going to even lift it off. He'll leave that quarry there for occupy the attack move. That's actually a pretty good strategy. You can blow those up with controlled demolition, but it's oftentimes... in this case, it's clearly more useful to slow him down. You don't have vision of it when you lift it off, but it's still useful to, just block your opponent's attack move a little bit. The question is, will we see a
flying
container?
stockades is forming.
Is it? I see an anchor moving around.
He's got a lot of musical chairs going on.
I see. Well, the Wraiths did come on in and try to pick off some of the Phalanxes, but as you can see, it's just a couple of Wraith corpses on the ground for his troubles. Looks like maybe 4 of them fell there. It's a pretty good number. Not a huge amount of
difficult
expense.
to pick them off.
He does have his own phalanxes out. They're not on the high ground, but they are in a position. And also, these are anchors for Mystery and not for anybody else here. So this is real cheeky. What people may not know, and I don't know how useful this is, you can actually load an unsieged phalanx into an anchor, and it will fire from it. So he's actually going to spot this. They get canceled. It's not too bad.
You can use them as a transport.
Yeah. You can ferry them around a little bit.
Meanwhile, Mystery has a small attack force coming up here in the top right. That's going to cause a little bit of headaches.
Yeah, he's going to have to start falling back a little bit, but the deployment is in, and the micro is not there to fight back. However, with all the Cyprians gone, the Wraiths can pick these guys off. There's no armor here, so they deal full damage. Normally, they deal much less.
The rest of his units have to make their way over.
Yeah, and they are indeed doing that. I'm not sure if Neblime will expect a second attack. He's not even going to pick off that phalanx. Looks like he's maybe... I don't know if that was in StarCraft 2, you'd say that's an F2 moment where you accidentally pull all your fucking units. Oh, look at this. He's caught the rest of the forces in transition. I don't know about deploying them. That actually reduces their armor, makes them more vulnerable, but, he was, why not do something? Oh, okay, here we go. Some more lobotomy mines. Now that he sees this, he might expect it, but...
Good range on the one on the cliff.
Just a false start there. Well, there's still a couple more. And there is a phalanx on the cliff, like you said. So we're starting to get into tank wars. Will he spot this right side base? This is yet another cheeky attempt from Neblime to see what he can manage to do. He's got a fulcrum and a stockade over here. He's going to go ahead and fill that anchor up. He's actually lifted this anchor. This should be suspicious, I think, but he's going to land it right there. And just
looks like Mystery is transferring a whole bunch of workers over to the right side here and wants to take that expansion.
Yeah.
He really doesn't know about the one on the top right at all. So
yes, yeah.
It's just 2 very naked expansions right next to each other. Just one phalanx guarding this ledge. Narrow choke. Which the Wraiths
they should be able to pick that
are
off.
going to patrol into with their rally. Yep, there you are.
Yeah, you get to see the order lines here. Oh, never mind.
Oh.
F2 moment.
He didn't he showed mercy.
I do
Not
have to
sure
wonder
about
what's
that.
going on there. Yeah, we're still not seeing gas caps. At this stage of the game, this is something you would expect, especially since you've got 2k minerals. It's only a little bit of gas, and it does slow your gas income, but maybe Mystery Meat feels like he needs the tempo. I still feel like he has had the opportunity to drop those. They do require
I'm
tier
surprised
2.
we haven't seen like just a handful of magicals come out to deal with these wraiths once and for all.
Right. A crucial point, Neblime's third, the one on the low ground here, has one mason harvesting from the reservoir. He has built a cap, but he doesn't have full saturation on it, right?
There's
So,
a lot of idle workers sitting in
Yeah.
his expansions.
yeah. Now
Neblime's.
that's also his only cap. He hasn't capped anything else, so
Yeah.
he finally gets
There's
rid of
like-
that phalanx.
He's got like a dozen or so idle workers there.
I like the cheeky watchdog in the base that was once occupied by Neblime.
Yeah. Just to keep an eye in case he takes it again.
Yeah, and a base going down in the bottom left. Now, this anchor positioning is pretty solid if he can actually staff it with something. Mavericks are not being microed forward, so the first one, go ahead and stem out. I think that, just barely out of range of the other phalanx. So that one will go down. And that's the
Mavericks
power of the armor,
annihilate
right?
The phalanx.
Yeah, that's the power of the low armor here. The Mavericks will deal full damage. Actually, when there's no armor, one of the strongest like early game units you can have in terms of DPS with the stemmed Mavericks there. Pretty
Yeah, there are
significant.
3 Trojans filled with Cyclops, some phalanx, and a little stack of wraiths.
There you
Stand
go.
down here to try to drop Mystery, as Mystery sends more of his forces over to deal with the top rights, but his bulk of his army is still sitting in the middle. So this drop is going to be completely out of left field for him.
Yes,
Very
and he
literally.
can siege. This is right next to the production for Mystery Meat, as you were mentioning. So he can deploy here, and he is going to. But as much as this is painful, it would have been way more painful for him to lose the base right above those forces where that drop hit. Meanwhile, the ledge has been retaken by Neblime. So he's sieging multiple bases at once, forcing a response. And okay, it should be easy enough to clean up, but you know, you've got your watchdog in the way, you've got your anchor being deployed, trying to draw some fire. And look at that, the phalanx might even catch him off guard here. No, never mind. It's going to target something else. So the first
the
phalanx
feet-
goes down.
Feet is able to repel, but Mystery moved his entire army over there too.
Yeah.
So there is some diadems being built in the middle of the map.
I love diadems. We will finally get a nice little showcase of what they can do. And I'm not even sure Neblime is aware of these, because I have not released the video showcasing the super weapons yet. So Sovroleths, Star Sovereigns, and diadems are set to appear in those.
This is my favorite unit in the whole game.
It is pretty good.
There's nothing that has helped sultan my afternoon meals than this. Meanwhile, Mystery is getting a little kerfuffled here.
Yeah.
This Anseal may or may not spot them.
I think he's got the vision. Yeah, I think he's got the vision. And as soon as you see this almost built frame, you must be shitting yourself, man.
The tank is going to give it away anyways by destroying that Sentinel. But they're going to
we go.
finish. Oh.
They have landed the
no.
targeters. Here we go. The first shots fired in the tournament here. And they are going to get responded to by these phalanxes, but they're pretty beefy. Pretty expensive, but pretty beefy. And the first shot actually zones off the wraiths there. Second one hitting the phalanxes. We'll see if the manual targeting is in effect. I don't think Mystery Meat is actually doing that here.
They wanted those vultures for a moment. Oh, the wraiths. No. Oh, the Masons. Oh, it's a tragedy. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The
they're
Masons.
walking through. No.
Oh no.
Oh man.
They escape. They actually escape just barely. Those vultures were annihilated. Lobotomy mines slowing down Mystery's random stragglers as they
Oh, look
charge
at that.
valiantly into the. Oh no, the phalanx. Okay, it's just outside the edge. Oh, the workers. Oh, so many Masons died to that. Oh.
I don't even know which one you were looking at.
I was looking at the left sides. All the Masons went down
I
to
see all
there.
the corpses. Holy shit.
Yeah,
That was just
there
a
was a
perfect
9-9
timing.
field there.
Yeah, this
Now,
game looks
Neblime
like
is
he's
definitely not going to be in a comfortable spot.
No.
He probably has no idea what to do here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think he's got tier 3 himself, does he, right? Doesn't
No.
look like he's got the fountainhead, but he's not built anything that he can use it from. Looking
Yeah,
at
he
his
doesn't even have the starports to try to, suicide dive them with air units or something.
Yeah. Which is possible. I mean, he could have used his wraiths to maybe start ambushing, but there's so many Cyprians, you need something more durable than that. Maybe Anseals wouldn't be a terrible shot since they can absorb some of the early shots, but Now, he's trying to take this base yet again, but it is within range of the diadems.
It's this is going to be a rough lesson.
Yes. Now this.
Meanwhile, however,
Yeah.
Mystery is still trying to deal with this stack of phalanxes on this cliff, and even sends all of his masons up there in one final glorious dive to take the gates of Troy.
Well, there's nothing in that anchor. This whole time, that anchor was not filled. So that's probably the thing that, like, if that wasn't the case, he would have easily taken care of this. But instead, the masons are going to go ahead and kill a diadem. I mean,
Another
phalanx,
Ministry goes
rather.
down.
Yeah.
The Cyprian walks into the ion field. Oh.
Glorious.
All right, so there's a Daedala being
yep.
built,
Yeah.
and it's not in a very safe position, but they may not be able to hit it from there.
I think he's going to use the stockade here. You can see he's going to catch vision with that. He's actually doing that right now in multiple locations. This is a very dirty trick that I remember having this happen to me a while ago when I was playing as Zerg, and he just was transitioning out of bio, so he sent his, at the time it was still called a barracks, and just floated over my whole base while I attacked it with multiple units, and just saw everything. So that's a nice little memory there. I don't think that this attack is going to be very successful, but the phalanx is in a good position.
Many mysteries of Cyprians are just walking and dying to anchors. There's just feet and tanks everywhere, and now the whole middle of the map is a no man's land, but Mystery doesn't really have a lot of vision for these cannons at the moment, so there is stuff he could be shooting at and destroying right now, but he's not detecting them.
Now, crucially, when you lift your Daedala or your Atlas, for that matter, you do lose access to what it provides, which is obviously to prevent players from just lifting it and putting it in a corner somewhere. So that means that you do need to have it be landed in order to provide its functions. And that means that if he decides to evacuate from this position, which he probably should, he's going to be in for a rude awakening.
He is able to mine from this left expansion now, and even trying to take the bottom left, although Mystery discovered that and put a stop to that insanity.
And we get to see a nice little glory shot of the omnidirectional, well, it's not omni, but the full angle directional render of the phalanx deployment.
What I like is that when they siege, they just don't suddenly change lighting mysteriously.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of floating stockades he could be using to spot right now, but Sublime's getting, or Neblime, Sublime, he's getting a lot of mileage out of this lax push.
Yes.
And now, as a result, he's just loading these Trojans with units. He might be looking to do a suicide dive on these, but there's so many Cyprians stacked behind them, I think it'll be a train wreck.
Oh, no.
All
on the left side base. What a good use of your Masons here. Oh, he's even got a staggered one at the very end, which is going to probably unlock yet another shot. Here they come. The beacons have targeted, and that's just going to clear the whole shot.
All the Cyprians are going to move there. That does give a window for a possible drop play if he's looking to do that. Because a lot of the defenders for those have moved to that left side. Oh, he's building his own diadem. Begun, the lobster wars have.
Let's do it, dude. Let's see all the diadems fighting each other. Now, he actually doesn't have a crazy... He doesn't have a crazy amount of defenses over here. The problem is, he's not technically within range. His blackjacks are here. Remember, units...
The drop is coming. It's heading down to Mystery as main.
Here we go. This is the gambit here. There's no
so
diadems here. There's not even anything in that anchor.
Yeah.
They've been evacuated. Now, there is a diadem that was apparently in reach. I'm not sure where that is even firing from.
Yeah.
Probably
now the
from
units want to
there.
acquire it, and they're heading up. They're marching back up.
Yeah.
So many Cyprians popped out of the stockades, and the drop is squashed. Some Trojans getting shot as they try to disengage from the base.
Oh my god. There was something down here in the middle that was like a bum rush of units in the middle of the map. You can see there was a bunch of ion fields there.
The stockade started spotting them and dragged a whole bunch of them down.
Yeah. It was actually, it looked like it might have been more painful for Mystery for a moment there, but it didn't end up happening. He does have a lot of
diadem might get destroyed here. If it's going to reveal itself. But the others just used their cooldowns on the blackjack, so there is another diadem being dropped to the left. Neblime may actually be able to push out of this if he's able to keep distracting these and shooting them with his own diadems. He's catching on.
I'm so surprised,
you've got
honestly.
The experience of doing weird things. You can catch on to them pretty quickly.
I'm really surprised, actually, that the diadem landed without total destruction. Meanwhile, there is one in the bottom left, so... Despite the lack of spinning, I think he'll have wished he had. Oh, he's going to lift it off.
Oh.
I think he's
saved.
saved.
Able to repel
oh my god.
Destroy. Mystery was able to destroy the northern diadem, so the Blime's big rush to salvation is
Now hold
being
on.
slowly picked apart. Another drop is coming.
Not only is there another drop, but there are nanite assemblies constructing probably the wrong tool for the job in the Minotaur, but still, it's a thing.
Oh no!
And
Oh, there's
unfortunately,
so many phalanxes in the bottom left. The drop, it had all of his hopes and dreams, but wasn't able to survive. Yes, there is an atelier up. Or
Yes.
atelier.
Atelier.
There is a nanite assembly. Is building some Minotaurs.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's the tool for the job here. It can definitely deal with the Cyprians quite well, and I suppose you can fly it away from the Hammerfall beacons. So
If
as
he
long
gets
as you're microing,
hippogriffs, then he has a very good chance of getting out of this. If he can hold on and prevent Mystery from getting too many defenses, the hippogriffs are the choice of the weapon you want to be able to start dealing with this. But that north right expansion that has served Neblime for so many years is having another diadem being built right next to it as well. Oh, he's building his own.
yeah, it's not
diadem
gonna.
suit.
I don't know if it's gonna finish in time, especially since the Masons will surely be killed. What we haven't seen so far, as we also see mantles being constructed here, but we haven't seen any guild halls, and that's where the Talos comes from, the advanced worker, which builds things faster and flies. So you could imagine that would be very useful when you're digging into Ion Wars.
Shambler and Beaver are having flashbacks at the moment.
Yeah. Hey, that diadem is going to get targeted back, indeed. So,
The Blackjacks annihilate the stockade.
yeah, not a
The
bad
help of the
move.
Matadors slowly tickling. Oh, they're disengaging. Oh, it's a train wreck.
Yeah, he can't repair the diadem fast enough. The Minotaurs have also been moved forward here. That's not a general aggro. That was an attack move, I think. So this could be pretty big. You can see that with Forecastle, one of their passives, it allows them to absorb a lot more frontal damage as long as the enemies are targeting that. He's moving them
You
out.
got to avoid the diadems.
Ooh,
Oh.
that was a lot of damage there. So he might still be able to move forward here. Meanwhile, the top
He needed
right,
really the rest of his units, not just the two of them.
yeah. Now, he is doing a pretty good job. There's not that many Cyprians over here.
He knows what he needs to do here.
Yeah. In fact, if he moved a little bit closer, oh, he's not keeping on tabs with it. There goes.
The top right. Top
Yeah.
right took his attention.
Yeah.
There was just too much tism.
Well, hey, at the same time, that
But
diadem
he
on the
defended the
cliff.
top right.
Yes, that's
He
very
able
important.
to destroy the one
Yeah.
diadem.
And we are seeing the depletion kick into effect here as well. The only base
Yep.
that's full in terms of mineral output is the one in the bottom left that is still being harvested. So, I mean, there's some resource nodes in the third here for Neblime on the low ground that still have some value. And of course, if he can take that base on the low ground right above the silly, the very silly Ion Wars stuff happening, then he can certainly do a fair bit of damage there as well. Now, this is really good. He's drawing the attention of the diadems. Mystery Meat not forcing the target back onto the enemy diadem means that Neblime is actually slowly chipping away at this with just a single Minotaur. I don't think he's going to anticipate that shot, so that should clear him out. And meanwhile, there's just a total onslaught of Cyprians and Mavericks getting mowed down by Matadors that are also inside the Ion fields, and there's still that Phalanx, and oh,
I
what
just
a mess.
love that you have all the diadems and then the handful of Minotaurs,
Yeah.
and the rest of it is still mostly tier 1.
Yes, yeah.
With a little bit of tier 2.
It's a fight of titans. Oh, what an unfortunate Cyprian placement to draw the initial attack from the diadem. Now, there are more Minotaurs being built. We do also
Mystery
have
did
Counterflags.
lose a diadem in the middle there,
Yeah.
so he is slowly being pushed back. What he really needs is some higher tier army of his own. He is building the Atelier himself, so he may be looking to build some heavier, but that's still a little ways off and fairly expensive.
The other thing that the
If-
Atelier unlocks is the add-ons to the Iron Foundry, which enable Penumbra, as well as, of course, the Anticathon, which is a fan favorite unit ever since Reclamation has been
He
updated.
hasn't built any of those yet, though.
Yes, yeah. It's more likely
He
that
has
he's going
no
to go
tier
into,
3 production
yeah.
at all at the
Yeah.
moment. So there is a world in which Neblime pushes out of this, gains momentum, and then start taking back chunks on the map and wins.
He's sacrificed his Minotaurs to clear out that Watchdog, and actually, ooh, the Mason dies, so the diadem will burn down. There's no damage overlay for it, but it will indeed burn down. I think it's going to burn. Yeah, it's going to burn down before it even fires the next shot.
He gave up.
But he did indeed GG out, and that will be the end.
He
Mystery
was
Meat
actually
going
in a
up.
good position.
Yeah,
I think he was in a position to even take that game.
I think so. Yeah, I think
He was
especially
maybe a little psychologically demoralized. Like, it was certainly like a situation where
Yes.
he wasn't sure what to do or what he was
Yeah.
contending with. But I think he was in a position to win that game.
Well, that is our game 2, and that was an that's the quintessential TVT once it gets into the late game there. If he had gone for centaurs instead of minotaurs, I feel like the mobility of the centaur, a much faster destroyer type class unit, would have allowed him to move and maneuver a lot better. Also, when you get close enough, it fires a secondary attack. Would have been very useful when trying to get close range onto those. Now, it doesn't do as much AoE damage per se as the Cyprians, but it still would have most certainly warded them off. And that definitely would have been a good move.
You just ignore the Cyprians because they're not really what you're after anyway.
Yes, yeah. So, and there you go. Our first game to feature diadems, the crowning jewel of the Terran arsenal. And now we will move on to the third game, rather. And this will be Benno against Mystery Meat on Boskevine.
Maybe Benno was keeping track of that game. You'll have an idea of what the later stages of TVT could look like, and maybe you'll have an idea of what his approach maybe might change a little bit in this game versus the first game. But we didn't really get to see much Tier 3. It was just the cannons and then the Minotaurs. There was no real effort beyond, like, Mystery Meat had a lot of Tier 2, like a lot of phalanxes staying in the space, but we didn't see madrigals. We didn't see any of the infantry. Didn't see, like, the Olympians or anything like that. So there was definitely a case where did you remove the T3 infantry building?
It shouldn't be removed. I obviously can't check right now because I'm in the game, but there shouldn't be a reason for that. That would be a real boneheaded move. He might just not remember that the captaincy has add-ons and stuff. So those are also unlocked by Tier 3. All right. Are you ready, Mesk, to jump into game number 3?
I'm good to go.
All right. We're going to jump into our third game of Ascension Group A for Cosmonarchy Brood War. It's going to be on Boskevine, which has recently received some updates to the visuals. We'll maybe show that off in the middle of the map later on once the scout happens. Our first match here is repeated. Benno, the Mahogany Terran in the bottom left, versus Mystery Meat, the Snow Terran in the top right. And a scout happening very soon here. Of course, this is Benno's pick, so check that out.
Wonder if Mystery is looking for something a little cheesy here.
Yeah, it could be.
Or if he's expecting
look at his pathing. Look at where he's putting that. You can see on the mini-map. He's going for something. He's going to go for that proxy stockade. I swear, this map has so much room for you to land in the base. And it might even be a little too much, to be honest. But the fact that you can do that, and of course, this map was picked by none other than Benno. So
I hope you guys are feet fans.
Stockade.
Because Sonic is going to plant some onto your forehead.
I have to criticize this placement, though, because I'm pretty sure the worker
will out in the open.
The worker will reveal this if it scouts. He's counting on Benno not scouting, just so that he can get a little bit closer to that point right north of the ramp. So that's curious. That's very curious.
I think this is kind of like at the point where you've got a couple points in the series, so you can start taking. You feel like you can start taking risks like this because, well, if I drop a game, it's okay. He might also maybe feeling a little more confident that he maybe just has more experience. He's getting back into it. Got a couple of games down. Now it's time to start doing really dirty shit. And the one worker is coming down there, but
that's just going to feign a scout, right?
He's building a Cyprian, so okay,
there's the anchor.
There's the anchor.
Yeah. So not what I expected.
There is Cyprians coming out for Benno, so Benno's worker looks like it's not going to discover that.
I think depending on... He has to path towards the ramp. He's almost certainly going to see the stockade here. So, yeah, this is... The jig is up here. He's even being attacked. He's going to see that the anchor is here. He knows what's going to happen. So we'll see what his move is. Anchor in response could certainly work. It depends on how soon. He's going to go with just one Cyprian and the Mason. Remember, Cyprians cost 2 transport space now, and the Mason is there to also offer repairs. Immediately responded to by Benno here.
So he knows all about the feet and that they can fly. Now, this does put...
It's close.
Does put Mystery in a little bit of a pickle, but even if he's not able to do huge damage here, this can still deny that fast expansion that Benno rather enjoyed in the other game. So, but Benno kind of needed to make his own anchor really a little bit faster.
Second one's coming too, yeah. Oh, he's not able to get there in time.
It was a good effort.
He is pulling all the workers here. He's not able to kill off that other Mason. This is going to be great economic damage, but remember, the quarry is up, and that's not the case for Mystery Meat. So Benno actually retaliates very quickly and maintains
Their
relatively
worker count
even. Yeah.
is only 1 in the favor of Mystery at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be 2, but yeah.
Significant investment to do that. So
Yeah.
even though he got a couple kills in,
I don't think that was worth for Mystery Me. I think it's been retaliated against. Now, there is still that forward stockade. There's nothing back at home. That's another thing that's super, super potentially volatile about this move.
it was like a trade, but the trade it was like a side trade. Like, it didn't really put him in he didn't do quite enough damage. He wasn't able to stop that anchor from being built. He wasn't able to kill quite enough workers, and he ended up losing all the investment at that point on top of it. So while he will continue to deny this expansion for a little while, once this anchor lands there, I don't think he's going to be able to stop it, and then he can just take the expansion if he wants to.
Yep, a third Cyprian coming down, but it's not really going to be enough versus the Cyprian, a Maverick, and the anchor, so especially as soon as it just drops a land here. There it is. Now, crucially, you don't get cliff advantage going from the jungle to the dark jungle that's there, so that's just a limitation of the engine, unfortunately, which means that if they do fall back, they don't stand the same result. Now, here's a Huracan. This is kind of curious. We'll see what Ahmed wants to do.
Charge forward. Yeah. He was probably hoping to get some worker kills with that. Trying to draw away the fire from the anchor, but unfortunately not enough damage to really maximize on that.
Yeah. Well, Ahmed did charge bravely into the night. We'll see what...
It was a heroic death, for sure.
Yeah. Now, the star pad comes out as the next structure of choice here as Mystery Meat looks to expand. And probably going to be no, it's going to be a treasury after all. And a second star pad. Look at this. So he's going to be going for heavy into air.
It's
and there's
cheese into cheese.
Yes, yeah. This is the transition we were expecting,
this
to be honest.
My style. I love it.
Yeah. Now, the stockade is falling back. He's going to go ahead and withdraw into a more defensible position. Doesn't want to lose that, of course. But he could certainly set Benno back. I mean, especially with how split his defensive force is likely to be. He knows the style. Benno likes to do those early expansions. So if one of the anchors is at the front and the other anchor isn't near the main area, right? There's no scouting for Benno. I think this might feel a little dirty in the context of, being attacked by such an aggressive amount of rates that are presumed to come out here. Second stockade as well, so there's going to be power behind this if it doesn't find a credible amount of damage.
A good split attack here where he uses a Wraith to pull back the anchors and then rushes in with a bunch of Mavericks or something like that, that could be, putting him in a very strong position. But he kind of has to work on it fast because with the quarry up, the damage that was sustained is already pretty much gone. They're already even on workers again, and there is a treasury that's coming up for Benno as well, so there's not really that big of a distance between them economically at all.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be some time before those rates hit, maybe another minute or so. And as a result, we don't actually know what state Benno will be in at that point, so that's going to be curious.
There is a Trojan being built.
Okay.
So I think he's looking maybe to drop some Cyprians or maybe some Ahmeds into that line along with the Wraiths.
Well, the Huracans are in the queue now, so that's definitely going to be the play. I know that he likes to do this. He's done it many times before. In team games mostly, but I remember one game where he was playing up against the Shambler on this very map, ended up I don't even think it was a drop. It was literally a proxy barracks that built a bunch of Huracans and emaciated the worker line there. So, or maybe that was Beaver. They all mixed together at some point. The Wraiths will spot this anchor, but they're not on attack move. And there's no reason for you to look at that anchor at that point, right? So no way that was anticipated.
Maybe he could pick it off, but it wouldn't give him the damage that he wants to do with him.
No, he's going to come in. Now, there are a decent amount of Cyprians available to respond. There's just nothing in the main, and the tempo play of Wraiths is going to be quite considerable. So
this is going to be the split attack I was talking about, just a little bit different. These are going to pull them down here, and then meanwhile his Trojan has gone towards the main.
Yep.
Took a fair bit of damage from that. It's going to ward those off. But now this transport is going to drop. And it's a little mixed group. Not pulling the trigger on it yet, looking to pull him back with a raise.
Yeah, he wants to keep occupying him, and that's exactly what he's done here. So the response is going to come in, somewhat predictably perhaps, to pulling all of the Cyprians pretty much. But there's a lot of economic damage being dealt here. Between the
first time around.
Yeah, between the Huracans and the Cyprians.
The Ministry saved him there because it blocked some of the penetrating shots, which would have killed a huge amount.
Yeah. Now, again, there's more worker queues here for Benno, so even though he's temporarily behind, I think he can still come back into this. It's just a question of, how speedy he is with the approach.
Now the Wraiths are coming back in, now that those have been moved back to the front.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you sort of would expect to see.
A push and pull, yeah. This is
They're
real.
gonna get a lot of damage in.
Yeah, the GG's called, and the cheeses are just too much there. There's a lot of there were a lot of steps there, and I feel like Benno had a chance to come back at pretty much all stages of the game, but overcommitting on some of the defensive moves and maybe just not being aware of the kinds
he did have
of
a
plays.
watchdog in that expansion, but it wasn't in the mineral line, so it wasn't able to protect the mineral line. If that watchdog was a little bit lower, the Wraiths, so many of them were just like one shot from being dead, so he would have at least lost most of the Wraiths if he wanted even a handful of worker kills out of that. So you always gotta like look at your expansion when you're building those defenses and think, if I'm the opponent looking at this, what am I going to do?
Yes.
How am I going to move into there? And you know, if there's a big open spot where the Wraiths are just going to fly up to, then you always gotta be really mindful of that.
Well, our next map has been decided. It will be Equilibrium with Neblime trying to deny Mystery Meat an early top. If he gets 4 wins on the board, he is the first place, and we play out the remaining games to decide who takes second place. You know, the first game that Mystery Meat played against Benno on Repulsion, I was thinking he might be a little nervous, this being, you know, a shoutcasted, live-casted tournament and all that.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, that can definitely put in.
It's my first tournament I've ever casted, too. So, and I don't usually do live casting either. So.
Right. Well,
you always feel a little bit of nudge about that. Performance anxiety is definitely a thing.
We'll see if Mystery Meat has fully shaken off the nerves. I think the fact that he went for that cheesy play kind of indicates so, but he is now Saffron Terran on the top right of Equilibrium, a map by Veek 7. And meanwhile, Neblime is the Dark Coral Terran in the bottom left. So, the Terratory now playing its presumably halfway point game, since we expect there to be around 7.
What's been curious about these games to me is that when I played the Fulcrum first, was more of the standards, sometimes with the barracks, now the stockade, and then you would only really see the star pads, like you might see like Beaver particularly take like ant seals early off of them, sometimes Wraith Scouts, but it was quite an investment. So it's definitely at least this set has definitely transitioned a lot away from that, where we're not really seeing people take early like vultures, and maybe it's because they don't really feel comfortable with the lobster mines, or you know, I mean, Mass Cyclops is also something that I've used a lot against Shambler with kind of mixed success. Sometimes he'd go like Mass Gorgons or whatever, you know, he usually play with Zerg, and I'd go like Mass Cyclops. Mass Cyclops was kind of like the all-rounder because he wanted to use tier 2 Fulcrum eventually anyway.
Yes, yeah.
So I would take the Fulcrum first, and Mass Cyclops can also be very effective against the other races as well. But with these players, they're almost always taking Stockade first. Now, I'm saying that, and Mystery is actually doing something different this time. He is actually going Fulcrum first. So we might see something more along the lines of really what I'm expecting. But the Lobster Mine does change the game a fair bit, because usually before, when you would go Fulcrum first, it was to try to get worker kills, try to get that one Spider Mine that would kill like 8 Masons or something like that. I've seen it, I've had it happen to me. It's absolutely disgusting. But the Lobster Mines, I feel like, are still really strong because you can use them to set up kills on the actual vultures themselves and to kill early aggression in particular, where you can put them on ramps or something like that, and then like Cyprians go up the ramp, get hit by the mine, they're stunned. They're very easy pickings for the vultures to deal with. But we're seeing Neblime, he's got a Huracan already as well.
Yep.
So and little different stuff out, a little mix.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I noticed about that last game, obviously it being cheesy, and clearly based on familiarity, that means that Mystery Meat didn't really show Neblime, like, maybe some of the weaknesses in the play. I mean, he might have had an opportunity to go back and watch the VOD, like, live on YouTube, or maybe he could have jumped into the replay and just scanned through it real quick, using the speed-up features and stuff. And so in that case, he
really had time to do that.
Though. Yeah, like, it was such a short game, and he probably wants to keep watching Mystery Meat and see what's going on here. Maybe watching Benno if Benno was going to take that one. Slightly misplaced treasury here, but no big deal. I can always just lift off and move if necessary. And that will be the expansion.
Vultures coming down. Probably not going to deal a lot of damage. Won't really be able to easily rush past these unless he gives them an opening. So,
yeah, setting up the trap here with the double lobotomy mines. Vultures only have 2 of them instead of 3, since they do give such great utility. They're actually going to pull a little bit of maybe muscle memory from default StarCraft when a lot of the attack rates are a lot of the attack rates are a lot slower now. So even for something as basic as the Maverick or the Workers, for that matter. He's actually canceled that anchor construction. He's got to task that Mason back on. That might bite him. He's still not doing it.
Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go.
Oh, okay, he's got it back. Now that's crucial amounts of time. Yeah, I mean, there's more vultures here to lay more lobotomy mines. Grab the. I think the lobstering it might occur here.
There is a stockade being built for Mystery, and I won't be surprised if that's for clerics.
It could certainly be. Yeah, one of the things you can do if you want to stay at tier 2 a bit longer, especially with the expansion tempo advantage, as you have more workers in that spot and you're building your quarry. There is still more workers for Neblime, but he's not transferring too many of them. In fact, he's transferring some now. But one of the things I've noticed is that players aren't fully in sync with the transfer rate, right? They don't necessarily know when to transfer and how many workers to transfer. I saw Benno, just build new ones, almost like Starcraft 2 style, where you just build new ones, and because there's no diminishing returns on the workers. But there are that in CMBW, so you have to be somewhat cognizant of that. And obviously, Neblime's played a lot of games of classic Starcraft, so that's a returning skill that you can obviously leverage here. But in this particular case, yeah, I'm seeing this is a very defensible map in terms of even against error and drops and stuff. Like the main isn't too, big. There's only one entrance. It's past your natural. It's very almost like stock standard in that respect. And there will be a star pad being built by Neblime, so he'll be able to also scout around a little bit and see what's going on. But right now,
I think
fairly
he's
even.
Feeling a little claustrophobic, looking to scout for sure. But you might have looked at that last game and think, I want to do drops too, especially with all the mines being in front of his base.
Yep. Now, we do indeed have the Vestry here, the formerly known as the Med Bay. The Stockade will be able to now generate Clerics or Shamans, and that will very heavily bolster the Goliaths. The Tier 2
powerhouse. Already a Cleric at the front that was repairing all the damage done to those Vultures from earlier in the game.
As well as a Goliath already deployed. So this can be broken. I mean, anchors are intimidating, partially because the people who have played a long time remember when Cyprians could be 4 in a bunker, and it was absolutely busted. Now, at this stage, it's actually quite difficult for anchors to have the same amount of damage output. And if there's only one and just a handful of infantry here, that's one of those situations. Now, this might bait him in a little bit too forward. In fact, he is going to go ahead and take the fight, and this is definitely something that you don't want to deal with as Neblime. He's even going to go ahead and stock all of his units here. I didn't even notice the anchor was emptied. He's panic pulled all of them as well. He has another anchor in the back line, but nothing in it, so he's clearly anticipating air cheese, which is not going to happen just yet.
A Wraith is up, but it hasn't moved yet. He is making some Cyclops. Neblime, that is.
Okay.
Mystery testing the anchor. So we got a lot of Masons sitting here waiting, and those are Masons that are not harvested.
Yes, yeah.
So this is a win for Mystery, so long as he keeps his pressure up.
Well, it almost doesn't matter, Mesk, because there's a 20 worker advantage.
Yeah, there is quite a big difference.
Yeah, I think he can afford to idle some, but of course would be more optimal to do so. Now, he's actually lured in the Goliaths. I don't think any of them will fall. You can see how beefy they are, and with more Clerics arriving on the front, that's going to be plenty for the heal.
He's getting little individual kills, slowly, paying for the budget, but we can see that Neblime's sitting on a substantial amount of resources and is stacking gas. We might see an Atlas come out of him.
This is a tech rush here, you can tell. And, as Terran, you can maybe afford to do this, especially with that second anchor up. But in fact, no, the Goliaths are going to charge on forward. A little bit awkward for the micro there. Definitely could have picked off a couple more Masons if that was your goal.
He wanted to commit, but there was a kerfluffle, and then he pulled out. Yeah. He didn't lose anything for it, but I think there was an opportunity to at least snipe some of those Masons.
And look at this. Vultures laying lobotomy mines defensively. This means it's a lot harder
If he does
now.
that again, he's going to pop them.
Okay. Not bad, not bad. And he can even go ahead and heal.
That was cheeky.
You remember the Clerics healing the mine back in the day?
The Atlas is being built for Neblime.
There we go. Big moment here. There is still yet another lobotomy mine there, but the workers here are going to go ahead and
trying to tickle down the anchors.
Yeah, you can just repair through this like it's TVP. It's not the end of the world here, especially if you've got the Cyprian slowly pitching out. And actually, the Cyclops can even attack in forward as well. So this is very similar to TVP.
Are not repairing.
Yeah, he's fixing it now.
One Goliath is gonna die.
just in a moment here. It's very close. There we
There it
go.
goes.
Finally popped. And yeah, the Cyclops dealing splash damage. It's little damage, but it stops the clerics from being super focused. So
Yep.
it's actually quite significant for that. Now, a couple Masons
Two
are going to get
additional
popped here.
fulcrums coming up from Neblime. He may be looking for a phalanx push of his own.
I think so. Yeah, the Atlas is done. Trojan started from the star pad. He can easily start moving his units around the
The
other side of the
Goliaths
map.
are not focusing their fire. They're not destroying the workers. They're not really accomplishing too much at the moment.
Yeah. Now he's going to even go ahead and call it quits on that, fall back, let his clerics heal up a little bit. Now the Wraith is on the side of the map here. He's going to scout out if he ends up moving it. It's actually not going to happen just yet. And you can tell that based on his camera position, this Ministry here in Mystery Meat's base is destined for where that Wraith actually is. He's even going to transfer some workers over, which is going to reveal the Wraith since it's not being managed. So that will reveal
There
that
is
there
a
is
Trojan here, taking some vultures, looking for a vulture drop.
Okay.
I was going to say, it wouldn't be amazing if he just went out and did a magical drop.
Yes.
That would certainly catch Mystery off guard, but there's going to be 2 vultures. Now, there's not really any defenses inside of his base, but the Wraith has been spotted by the watchdog he built right next to it.
Okay, that's curious. There was also some canceling. He went for captaincies instead. He's building 4 of them, Neblime, that is. So enjoying the first player to tier 2, he's going to instantly start using some of that. And he does have the vultures out as well.
He depleted all of his gas in the process, though, so...
Yes, yeah.
He's got a couple of phalanxes coming.
And they
More
couldn't have
Goliaths
come.
have arrived.
Yeah, they couldn't have come at a better time with all these Masons heroically. Oh, and there you go. You even get one on the way out with the phalanx. The way that the stun works is that it stuns for 2 seconds and slows for 2 more seconds after that. we have a funny little skirmish where both of them stunned each other there. As it
Yeah,
will...
so those vultures were not used to drop mineral lines or anything like that. They were used to scout
Yes.
and put mines at those expansions.
Yep.
So he's more concerned about Mystery taking control of the map while he's contained
Yes.
than he is actually about dealing economic damage at this point. Also, 69 workers, by the way. Nice.
Nice. Also nice is
Nice.
reservoirs being constructed for Neblime. He's going to have a serious gas advantage since there is still no Atlas that I can see for Mystery Meat. He's still only on 3 production structures, in fact. He has a formidable army, but no way to remax easily once it gets
The
wiped
choke
out.
point's really difficult for him to penetrate, but the anchors are moving forward. He can get a lot more surface area on them, and a bunch are getting hit by missiles. One goes down. This could be a disaster.
Yeah,
for
no
Neblime.
repairs either. The Mason's starting now, but it's too late, and the Phalanxes are still not even deployed. A couple of them could get pushed out. You could definitely jump in here, kill up those Madcaps, the advanced infantry, and meanwhile, of course, yeah, he's just going to charge on through. There's so many clerics as well. This could be a death
Even if he
push.
can't take the main ramp, he's
Yeah.
going to be able to take this expansion if he wants it. But it looks like he wants to push the ramp.
He does, yeah. He's really trying here. There's plenty of damage coming out from these Phalanxes, but there's no armor, nothing to protect them. I think this came at the exact wrong time.
Yep.
He's got more Madcaps coming, but...
The left-off was a little too aggressive.
Now that Phalanx is still doing pot shots and being repaired as well, so it's not the end of the world. He still maintains
He's
a worker
trying to deal with
advantage.
it, but...
Yeah. Oh, there's the drill. Drill on the
nice.
ramp, try to stop them around, but the clerics are just giving so much
There's
sustain
so many.
here.
They're just getting all caught up in each other's shit. Just an endless dance. He medic drilled him is what he did.
Yeah, that's what it looks
That's a
like.
tactic he learned from Flash.
Yeah, get the boys out, get the boys off
Back
the
in
line.
his OSL days.
Jeez, what a move.
But there's still the 1 phalanx, 2 phalanx.
Yeah, he can repel this. He's just going to lose a lot of workers. Now, for the first time in a long time, losing out on the worker advantage.
Yeah.
By a considerable margin, too. Now, the Madcaps ignore the armor of the Goliaths, which is a pretty big deal. And now, there's even a couple Mavericks in that anchor I didn't even notice in the back line that was used to ward off any would-be air play.
Yep.
So, check that out. And with the lifted treasury, he can reestablish the space, but he really needs to keep building workers, and he's not. He's not even really fully saturated on his main right now. This is not looking too hot for him, despite having the tech advantage, and there is an Atlas
This is a really
being
heavy
started.
investment for Mystery, though.
Yes,
So
he's only
Mystery
now started
is
his Atlas.
getting an Atlas.
Yeah.
But if he loses these Goliaths, he's not going to have a lot more map pressure. So Neblime can pull out of this.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't feel too dissuaded like the last game, where he was still in a position where he could have maybe won, but, you know.
It can be difficult to know when you're in
Yes.
the position, but
Yes.
now he has more eyes on the map, so he has more of an idea of what the actual map presence for Mystery is like. It's just mostly the right side that's dark for him. Well, Mystery is getting a 3rd set up there, but
He's also got a
since
4th
this attack
ministry
is such
there,
a
yeah.
massive investment,
Yeah.
there is a road out for him, especially since he has so much production already made.
Yep. They're going to try to pull and go onto that phalanx. It is a little bit too far forward, but does get a shot off.
You needed more masons to repair the anchor.
Yeah, that anchor is going to fall. Madcaps are fully charged at this point, but of course they will be much more vulnerable without the anchor.
But the Goliaths are mostly repelled, except for these ones that are trapped in the corner there.
Yes, yeah.
Just need to slow crawl this forward. Don't need to rush it.
Yeah.
When you recognize how expensive the Goliaths are, you realize how heavy of an investment this attack is.
It's almost the same price as a phalanx, for people to put that into perspective. 200 minerals and 100 gas.
But they charge for this phalanx is being repaired.
It will be focused down eventually, yeah. And the Vulture's even charging in to try to start stunning the remaining phalanxes. Yeah. The GG's called, and Mystery Meat is going to top the group with 4 wins right out the gate. So check that out.
So I did kind of come into this series expecting Mystery to win, but I thought the games were going to be way more one-sided than that.
Right, yeah.
So the 2 new players definitely put on way better of a show than I really expected of them.
Yeah.
And I think, like Neblime, the game with the diadems, it would have been a difficult game to win, but definitely he was in a position to win. But it's like the unfamiliarity at that point is that he, and maybe not like the strongest, like sort of tangent awareness of the map, like the status of the whole map, where you can feel like you're a little contained and maybe he's a base or 2 up on you. But since he was killing diadems and he hadn't spotted any tier 3 production, you could wager that and say, maybe I'm in a position to try to make a play and push this out. But in the other, like with the cheese,
yes,
it was, that's just very silly. And you have to respond to the cheese in very specific ways very quickly, which is going to be difficult even if you know what you're doing. So it's cheese, called cheese for a reason. But still, there were absolutely back and forth in those games. Like in this game here, what it all came down to was him moving the anchors forwards out of that choke point before he had enough phalanxes to break the cleric line. If he had waited just a little bit to get like another 3-4 phalanxes to get more damage in, because the Goliaths are going to charge forward when you try to land, then he would have been able to repel that. He was almost in a position where he could stabilize. But because he was getting hit from 2 different sides with the Goliaths constantly, he was never able to put enough damage into one spot to actually fully destroy them while they were being healed.
Absolutely, yeah. So, learning the mechanics and how that goes, it's a very different feel. Nobody would ever think, oh, clerics will heal Goliaths. That's not a thought that most people have ever, entertained for Brood War fans. So, yeah, really good showing. And you know what, Mesk? I hope you're excited. Benno has selected Maim Street.
Oh.
So that will be very interesting. It's everybody's favorite map here, made by Darkened Fantasies. Big fan of
of course it's Darkened Feet who made Maim Street. I thought it was you.
No.
I thought only you would make something like deranged. But no, it was Darkened Feet. Now, I'm going to be AFK. I'm going to go AFK just for a moment.
Yeah, sure. We'll get started.
Head off to the bathroom.
Well, guys, I hope you are enjoying Ascension #1 for Cosmonarchy Brood War so far. I got to say, it's going pretty well. I'm happy about the quality of the games. Definitely competitive, even in the cheese. There was a moment in time where Benno could surely have fired back. So certainly a risky play, but something that I think, Mystery Meat's kind of showing off at this point. So pretty good stuff there. So because Mystery Meat has topped the group, I think maybe Neblime thought that there would be he is through. Okay, yeah. The format was generally supposed to be. Hey, you know what? I suppose we can do that. Gives you guys more time. That's fine. So the thought process here is that second place obviously goes through, but I was thinking Mystery would I'll just explain it in chat, I guess. Normal Ascension rules. He's thinking of when he played him earlier.
So, you know, when you were talking about Cyprians in bunkers, I had a flashback to that the game 2 versus 2 is Shambler versus, I think, Beaver and Biddy Bee, maybe?
Okay.
And I had to tack up to tectons to destroy the ones that landed behind our mineral line early into the game.
Right.
Maim Street.
A very storied map.
So this is Neblime versus Benno.
Yes, that's right.
So no longer is one of the players having what can be perceived as an experience advantage. We have two of the newer players versus each other, and both of them have shown fairly decent mechanics. So I think this is going to be a very interesting game. You might see them do some very non-standard things because they both have that same sort of like their comfort zones more in the early stages of the game, and both of them have shown that they're not really quite at the experience level to deal with the tier 2, tier 3 changes. And so you might see them do some really weird things to throw each other off.
I should mention now that since Mystery Meat has ended, we had a little bit of a format conversation. My thought process was the default Ascension rules play out all the games in the same format, so they allow somebody to theoretically go 7-0, and then you would just have a tiebreaker to decide who gets second place. And we ended up, since I think Mystery Meat was tired, he's like, well, how many do I have to play exactly? And we talked about it a little bit. So what I've decided to do for the format, and I think it's probably better anyway for showing more people get more games and stuff. Instead, this is basically turned into a best of 3 between Neblime and Benno now to see who is going to go ahead and take it. So I have a feeling our next group, the Equator, by the way, is the name for that group because there's T, Z, and P. Our next group will most certainly go back and forth a little bit more. I don't think there's going to be theoretically, the Shambler could emerge as the champion. He's probably the favorite, but definitely something that I think is it's interesting. It's interesting. But Neblime is going to go ahead and scout. He's the Mint Terran in the left, and the Zinwaldite Brown Terran in the right is Benno, who is going to go ahead and go the classic, Quarry Stockade Cyprian opener.
He's got that opening.
Yeah.
They both got that opening. They both like it. They both go Quarry first.
Yeah.
And they're both going for Stockade this time, too. No more Vulture shenanigans, at least for now.
Is that a fucking crow?
But Neblime's actually gone for 2 Mavericks. So he's more gas light, but he's not mining a huge amount of gas. So I'm not sure if he's going to do the same. Oh, there is an anchor being built in his corner there, you can see.
Oh, I see. He's maybe preparing to lift it off and fly it over.
Very
he could
possibly.
also, there's a reason he picked this map. That's all I'm going to say. I'm assuming there must be a reason. You don't pick Maim Street. He originally wanted to play Boskevine, but we removed the map when it's played. So in that particular case, yeah, I'm not actually sure. Now, there are 4 Mavericks coming out from Neblime's
Maybe he
anchor.
just wanted a different map. Maybe he is in tune to the insanity of this map.
Well, Neblime being the one to do the anchor, it's lifted off. The feet have lifted. Yeah.
The feet are coming.
Yeah, they are in.
Is Benno
in the sky.
prepared to deal with feet again?
Now, there are 4 Mavericks, which deal a lot of single target DPS, but obviously no crowd control. But he has no scouting. Like, he's not really figured anything out. He didn't scout the anchor. He might have scouted the anchor in the front by the stockade there for Neblime.
He knows there's Mavericks.
Yeah.
And that's
about it.
kind of about it at the moment. You have to know that there are feet. Here they come. How fast is he going to respond to this is going to be the question.
Yes, he has to see. I mean, he's
gonna
looking.
flop right.
I think he sees
right
it. Yeah,
on
he's
top.
got his Cyprians.
He's coming.
Oh, he's actually moving
the Masons-
forward. He's like, fuck you, I'm going to kill you.
But they're going past it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, they're just trying to surround a little bit. I don't know if I like the Mason pull. I mean, in theory, it's like important, but maybe you should only have done a couple. Actually, the Cyprians, I think they barely have the same range in the bunker, right? Or actually, the Maverick will have more. I think the Maverick has 5 range.
I think
and
losing
+2,
a
so.
handful of Masons at that point for the investment of the bunker and the Mavericks evens out. Whereas if he had lost Cyprians, they're much more expensive and it takes longer to get them back. So
Well, you know what?
I think Benno kind of came back for that.
Yes, the star pad is done, and the Trojan is the first unit out. So we will see a Cyprian drop. Now, it's crucial to remember, just like similar to Goliaths being 2 transport space or Vultures, Cyprians are also 2 transport space. So we'll only see 4 per Trojan, but that can still be enough to destabilize the game, especially the anchor for Neblime that was built at the beginning of the game is moving out to the natural. Will he expect? He didn't scout the star pad. It was too far outwards, right? So... That's
There's
pretty
not
spooky.
even a complementary watchdog being built. Now, he is sending a Mason over there.
Okay.
2 Masons.
We do have an
He's
anchor.
rebuilding the anchor.
Yeah.
Very possibly for a second attempt.
Well, the problem here is that the Trojan's already out
It's-
and starting to move out, so...
It's not there. But the Trojan's taking a slight detour down. Yeah, it's just going straight to the line. There are no units to go into that anchor at the moment either. He has moved them all out.
Yes,
into
yeah.
the
He has a
front
Cyclops out.
and
He can
the back
certainly put
door.
that in.
Yeah.
But it might get into, it really depends. I don't know if he even remembers that. Oh, yeah, he would have found out that Cyclops can load into there, but...
Yeah, he wants it in, but it's not in position.
Yeah, totally
Oh.
shutting down the mining here.
Oh.
A couple of Masons are going to get picked off, and funnily enough...
Gotta keep moving.
Yeah, the Trojan is still walking around here, flying around, scouting stuff. We'll see the anchor.
Trying to reposition his feet, but it's like playing musical chairs.
Oh, well, the Cyclops is getting
they got
rallied.
attached to
I don't
the
think it's going to get
Cyclops.
it. Yeah, it's going to go ahead and hit the deck. This
He
is
lost the Cyclops, but it saved his Masons.
so
but now they charge forward.
No,
Oh, no.
why'd you do that?
Oh,
Oh,
my
jeez.
God.
Oh, Maim Street. I hope DF is happy with this showing. Hopefully he's having a good time here watching Ascension. And yeah, this looks much worse for Neblime than it does for Benno now. That was way more economic damage.
The Masons are constantly running into the path of the Cyprians getting shot.
Hey, they managed to escape without any further damage. And there is an expansion.
You know, somehow coming out of that, he's only 4 workers down.
I don't know how that's possible. But meanwhile, Benno does have a lot of minerals in the bank, so he can start dropping more stockades. He can go for...
Benno's got a treasury up in the right. It was scouted. There is a Maverick corpse right next to it. So...
Yeah.
And there is actually a 3rd expansion being built by Benno as well. So there is 2 more Trojans coming with Cyprians.
Oh my goodness.
Neblime better be prepared because the pressure is not going to end. You can see he's sending over his feet.
Yep, he's going
I
after.
like it, you know.
Yeah, he wants to fire back. The feet wars are good enough.
The best thing you can do when you just got punched by someone is to put your feet on their face.
Well, the problem is that there's no vultures here. He's pulling the
Very
workers
fast response
preemptively.
time this time.
Yeah, he shouldn't lose too many of them. But there's only
He doesn't have
a
any units
single
to defend,
Cyclops
though.
coming. Yeah, he's going to transfer the workers. At least he has a place to transfer them to. But this is looking pretty rough. Now, the focus will be split now. The anchor is down. It will burn down
Anchor is
eventually.
down. It's gonna destroy the watchdog, the most important target.
Yes. Well, you know
Here
what?
come
Those
the
Masons are... Those are battle workers, dude. That's
None of them
spooky.
died that time.
The Cyclops was tasked onto a ridge or something instead of doing anything useful, so that was a follow command.
Lime is he's got kind of like a jigsaw puzzle of Tism to unravel at this point. Which is, what do I do? Well, maybe lifting off the stockade so it doesn't get destroyed would be an idea, but you know, if they're sitting there shooting the stockade, that's a lot less damage than what they could be doing at the moment. Now, maybe Benno might be thinking that something is up because his opponent hasn't GG'd yet, and workers came from the bottom. But he doesn't seem very interested in putting pressure on that natural, which is still happily mining unmolested at the moment.
Yeah.
So Neblime is in a bad spot, but he's not completely out of the game yet.
Well, this Fulcrum...
building a watchdog there, too.
Okay, the Cyprians were on hold position, so they don't end up chasing. He's laying some lobotomy mines that are spookily close to his own worker line, but, you know.
Well, I mean, at least they won't kill all of his workers.
Yes, that's true. Could be worse. Now, how can Neblime salvage the situation? Benno showing that he learned a thing or two when Mystery Meat gave him some cheese. This is the cheese map. If you pick Maim Street and you play a normal game, you automatically win because your opponent
It's never going to be normal. Like, the normalest game you can get on this map is Tism.
Yeah.
Now, these Cyprians can get a lot of range off of this cliff onto the worker line to the point that I think that anchor is not going to do Sublime too much good. Neblime. I'm going to always call him Sublime at this point.
Well, he's not feeling very sublime with the cliff advantage Cyprians annihilating his worker line. Now down by, quite a few workers here. This is a 16 deficit, so.
The Vultures finally cleaning up this disaster.
Just so you know, guys, the only thing that was used for the attack, there's a vulture in the top right here, but it's not going to get too much done, I don't think. In fact, it's aggroed onto the Cyprians and surrounded by Masons, so it spins helplessly. But all of this damage that was done by Benno was done by a total of 9 Cyprians.
There's still 1 Cyprian left. This Cyprian, it could close the game.
I think it'll be spot. Ooh, that vulture was low HP, so that's not going to happen. Might draw some ire and
First
attention.
blood already shed, I'm telling you.
Yeah, these vultures now going to scout out the third.
These
but
2
there's not
vultures
really
here are going to
mining.
find that expansion. Yeah. Well, maybe. They're just chilling out at the moment. The Cyprian awaits in ambush in the most inconspicuous location possible.
Yeah, when you have advanced
He's looking for
workers, you can actually mine from that spot with the caution lines and stuff, the street signs.
So there are Masons that have been rallied over to this expansion that are going to die. Oh, no.
Absolutely lobotomized. Well, he's just going to lay some more, but there is another drop being fomented here. 3 Trojans. And now this time it's not 4, not 5, but in fact it is 11.
There's a single Maverick in the
Cyprians.
1 anchor.
Okay, that'll
He
that'll
may
do
just
it.
not want to drop on it because
Yeah.
he doesn't know there's only 1 Maverick in it, right? So,
Right. Yeah, I think at this point he's just going to go ahead and pull his drop back home and, do the mind game. But there's a decent amount of workers being killed as they pop out of the quarry.
He could take out the main very easily, but he doesn't choose to scout it out at the moment. He just wants to deal with just these
Hey!
vultures.
Oh no, the lobotomy mines got splashed, and yeah.
Every little bit of time that Neblime wastes here is a net bonus for him that helps him get back into the game because he doesn't realize it yet. But there are the 3, which is 3 Trojans flying around that could absolutely destroy his main. Now he does have 2 Goliaths, so that will definitely help. But
Yeah. Well, you can put 2 of those in the anchor as well if you need that single target damage, make him even beefier. Instead, he's actually going to drop them.
Dropping them
okay.
here.
Well, he's just dropping 1 Trojan's worth. Something to note about Trojans relative to other transports, they unload
Scouting.
units faster than conventional transports, right? Like if you unload units 1 at a time from the anchor while it's lifted off, that will also do the trick. So
there's a Mason on the left there. I think that Neblime's looking to build a treasury there as well.
So now there's only 7 of these Cyprians and the Trojans. Depending on how they path, the Goliaths could start picking off maybe the empty Trojan first. Really depends on what Benno does with them. So yeah, the game is actually sort of stabilizing. Still a 15 worker deficit for...
Oh no, they're
Neblime.
pulling back.
Oh boy. Well,
Yeah, well,
losing this as it's being put
not
together
a big
isn't
deal, but-
terrible. Yeah.
It's demoralizing. It's psychologically but no, he's
Yeah.
waiting on it. He's sleeping on it.
Yeah, fuck that empty Trojan.
It's the empty Trojan.
Oh, there's more Goliaths here.
Time that 2 more Goliaths showed up.
Yeah. And remember, the treasury is absorbing so many of those shots based on the positioning. Benno could definitely have done a little bit better at migrating his units around, maybe killed all of those Goliaths, or at the very least one of them. He doesn't even get the Mason at the end of the day because of the way that it was
He
moving
might
around.
lose. The Trojan's on top of it, which is...
Yeah, there's at least one of them going down, so... Yeah, pretty good
1 out of
response
3.
there.
Yeah. Lost a couple Goliaths, but definitely is a net bonus for him as opposed to the rest of the game where he kind of suffered immensely and was traumatized and bullied. But now he repelled that, didn't really suffer any damage. He gets to keep his expansion.
Yeah.
There is a lot of Mavericks.
Yes, he had just a second ago, he had almost 2,000 minerals, so he's clearly not sure exactly how to, spend that money. He's sort of building that familiarity. There's a squad of infantry to respond to this mech play.
Neblime immediately wants to go on the offensive and try to take out the expansion he was heckling earlier. He ran into a wall of Mavericks.
Yeah, well, you can see the armor coming in pretty clutch here for the Goliaths, staying alive quite a bit. And that Vulture did so much extra damage, too. So this Goliath will clean up the Mavericks and the last Cyprian. Just take a couple more shots, and he'll be all set. And at the very least, that bought time for the anchor to be set up at the 3rd, so that should stay alive. We'd have another drop coming in the bottom middle, as well as in the bottom left, there's just an empty Trojan for mind games, I think. And Neblime did respond to the presence of it. He could have even picked up that
He doesn't
Cyprian
respect it. He doesn't care.
Yeah. He's like, well, whatever. Yeah, I'll just build a Cyprian right on top of you. Now, there are, in this case, 8 Mavericks
The 2
coming
Goliaths
in.
are going to die to the anchor at that expansion.
Okay, yeah, they
It
do
is on
indeed.
fire, but he holds it. There is... This one Trojan does actually have Mavericks in it.
We're going to see the explosion.
they all
Oh, you
died.
get to see the corpses when they're actually in the transport. So it confirms to you that stuff was in there. pretty useful.
He doesn't
there.
realize that there's like 80,000 other Mavericks where that came from. But
Yeah, there's a lot. Now
there
Atlas is
also
done.
an Atlas.
Yes,
yep,
Palladium is coming up, so maybe tank drops. Could see phalanxes.
possibly.
Maybe madrigals.
I just want to see Madrigals.
Yeah.
I want to see Shambler traumatized. He has so many minerals, though. Could use it to build maybe like 1,000,000 captaincies or something.
Certainly an option.
It's going to keep spamming Mavericks, but there's an Atlas coming up for Neblime now, so with his current infrastructure, I think you're also going to see phalanxes.
You know what's
Nobody
really,
has actually
yeah.
built any Madrigals at all, which is just, it feels so weird for this.
Well, yeah, because you're used to them. I mean, I was surprised Mystery Meat didn't do it. He wanted the conventional, phalanx, artillery, infantry push in the first game.
There is a treasury here that's scouting out these 3 geysers in the top right, and it looks like he's going to take them. If he caps those, that will really help him balance out his current economic state.
I think he might get very angry that you can't build a core in there.
Yeah.
I think I told DF about that, and I think he thought he fixed it, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Well, he is loading them into the transport, so
Yeah, that's
he
fine.
does have some surviving Trojans. He'll
Right.
get that figured out. There are indeed some phalanxes coming for Benno. Whereas a star pad was built for Neblime. It may just be for scouting, or he's building 1,000,000 vultures.
Yes, yeah. Could certainly be swapping those at 5,000 minerals for Benno. Great economy, but not great at spending it just yet. There's a little bit of an anchor.
We also
creep
don't see
in
the
there.
spam of Sentinels.
Yes.
So that's like slightly uncharacteristic.
Yeah, for people who don't know, the Sentinel,
Sentinels
a
would really
anti-ground tower, and it works
Has
pretty
line
well.
trace.
Yeah, they
It's
similar
just
to
like
the
a
Cyprian.
Cyprian.
Yeah, exactly. Works very well
just
at
stronger.
yeah. It has 10 range base, so it's very very powerful in that. And if you build them on top of a cliff advantage like the third that we're looking at here for Benno, could
Yeah.
certainly help him riposte any ground-based attacks. They don't attack air units, so and they are 250 minerals.
I like
a
that
pop.
he built an anchor there, put some vultures in it.
Yeah, why not?
But unfortunately, it is going to get out. Oh no, they walked into it.
Absolutely slapped.
Oh, the tragedy.
Yeah, reaction time not quite there. Couple phalanxes here.
I think he just saw feet and vomited.
Could very well be the case. Yeah.
So our worker counts somehow, in spite of this topsy-turvy game,
Yeah.
are just 1 apart. Both players are at tier 2, but Neblime hasn't made anything in tier 2 with his paladins yet.
I think maybe this is something I'll have to message Veek about in the bottom left. Did they figure it out yet? Or no, they're coming back. Somehow they think
Oh.
that's the closest treasure. Don't ask me how. That's a curious one. He might have actually pathed them
they
on. to
eventually
something else,
return.
yeah.
I've run into that issue a number of times.
Yeah.
And how it shows up is really inconsistent. But they try to go somewhere else, they give up, and then eventually they do return it to the
Yeah.
building. Or they take a really bizarre route.
Right. Well, we have
Meanwhile,
some.
these vultures are taking the main ramp into
Yeah.
Benno's main, and they're going to find all the phalanxes
Yep.
that are chilling out over here. That's going to tip his hand,
Oh.
and he's going to know that there's tier 2 in play for his opponent and what it is.
He almost
along
actually
with-
sniped that phalanx. It's surprising.
He also would have spotted just a tiny portion of the wall of Mavericks.
Well, there's a wall of vultures moving in.
Yes,
See
there's a
what
lot of
he can do.
vultures.
He's
Those
most-
vultures could cause them a lot of headaches.
Yeah, especially if they still have mines, as looks like some of them do. They could certainly
If they
drop a bunch.
snipe those phalanxes. Oh, he does have some sentinels here.
Yeah.
So that's going to keep him safe. One Maverick offers his life. Oh, he wants the other one. No,
He's going for the Sentinel. That's a curious one.
It's possible the tanks pulled hate from
Yes.
hitting them when they moved away.
Yeah. There's an
There is
Ancilla,
a
too.
Trojan dropping 2 phalanxes on the lower cliff next to Neblime's main. I don't think they're going to be able to accomplish too much. Oh, he spots it too. The feet have lifted off, and here comes the horde of vultures.
Haha. Yeah, that's a curious position, and I think
No.
with the low
Gonna
armor,
commit.
yeah, there's not going to be much there. Now, what I don't know if Benno knows, but you can lift off. It takes the whole Trojan's cargo space, but you can lift off a siege phalanx. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Meanwhile,
data low.
the feet burned down, and it exploded.
It did explode.
That's so sad.
Daedala, though, coming out for Benno, using some of his economy. Loads of minerals for both of our players, honestly.
It's okay. He's got Mavericks.
He does
If he
have
built like
Mavericks.
another 10 stockades, I'm sure he can just keep making more Mavericks.
I think you could do full World War I simulator and just storm the front gates at this point.
I think you could, because the lobotomy mines don't deal AoE damage anymore.
Yeah.
The vultures are going to get swarmed by them, and there's
Yeah.
not really a lot of other damage on the map for Neblime at the moment. But he does have a fountainhead, and he's built 2 mantles, so there's actually cataphracts coming out.
Interesting. Okay.
That's ideal against somebody who has 300 million Mavericks.
Yeah.
It just so happens. It is actually ideal for this. Maybe not amazing against the Phalanxes, because I think the Phalanxes will outrange them and they're kind of slow. But against a horde of Mavericks, I don't think there's many things better suited for them at tier 2.
Hey, if you go to Benno's third on the high ground where there was that vulture attack earlier, and then you move slightly to the top and left, you'll see guest star roller skates.
You'll see Vine Boom, the
Yeah.
Vineyard seismology.
There it is.
More vultures.
Yeah.
A mass just nearby.
Oh, there's some phalanxes too. They might be able to start creeping towards the position. Maybe try to encourage Benno to creep forward himself. Also,
With
some
the
watchdogs,
cliff range
too.
advantage, this is super dangerous
Yes,
to do,
yeah.
especially against another Terran.
Oh, drop in the bottom left. A couple phalanxes coming down.
Oh.
Not too shabby
Yeah,
there.
found the Sentinel. The players have discovered the Sentinel,
It's
but it is
dead.
destroyed.
Yeah.
And
Look at all the
That one
capped
is also-
geysers in the bottom left too. That can be a sieged position as
Oh,
well.
they are putting some damage onto there. That's quite a bit of range on there. Does that constitute as a cliff advantage?
Which where?
Oh. Onto those capped geysers, they destroyed a worker making a watchdog.
The cataphract
Cataphracts.
drop in response is
Beautiful.
curious. Yeah. I mean, that's a
Beautiful.
crowd control unit, right? So it's pretty funny.
They're pretty tanky. Not most amazing damage against armor, but they don't have any armor when they're siege, so it doesn't make a difference. There is so many Mavericks. Meanwhile, just outside of Benno's base, an elite task squad of a single vulture, 3 Mavericks, and 2 clerics heckle his million Trojans. And they might even get some kills out of this. Oh, it's almost.
It's out of
Not quite enough damage in here, but you know what?
I don't think
It
Benno
probably
minds too
annoys
much. He's not really
Yeah.
bothered. Okay,
He can't be
diadem.
bothered to take this serious.
The very first diadem is going down Benno's main, facing the spot that the feet originally landed and defiled.
Oh,
It shall be
no.
cleansed.
Neblime is going to have his own flashbacks now.
Now there's also
He's
one
going
going
to
down in
join
the third.
the Shambler camp, and anytime you mention these things, he's just going to go catatonic.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
He does have the tools to deal with it, though. If he just started spamming, like, starports, he could try to stop them before they become too much of an issue.
There's another Maverick drop happening. He has to get those out of his base somehow, apparently. So that's going
Yeah.
to be the Trojans at the bottom right.
It's Trojans for Neblime, actually, coming up with those cataphracts. He's got two
Oh, they're going to meet.
sets of 2,
Yeah.
and then 2 phalanxes. So if he drops those right in the main, you're going to see a lot of Mavericks die.
For sure, yeah. I mean, there are some sieged phalanxes, which are scouted by that remaining vulture, so maybe ward him off there. He might go for the third. Now, the first diadem
It
has
begins.
shot. Yes. I'm still looking for the spot that it shot exactly, but...
It shot.
Oh, I see, yep.
Something near. I think he lifted off a watchdog or something to scout. So
Well-
all those are going to die. But those drops are going right to that expansion that he scouted very early in the game.
Yeah, indeed.
That's gonna
Oh,
deal
look at
quite
all
a
the
bit of damage.
Mavericks in the bottom middle as well. Yeah, there's a bit of a trade happening here. We're trying to keep tabs of all the action. The Mavericks are not being microed. Of course, the
The
attention...
lobotomy mine is a little too close to the Sentinel. But if they try to charge it and surround it, they're in for an unpleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think they might. Oh, no, instead... there's no
maybe
repair
not.
order either from the Masons there. Could have maybe done something. And there's a
The
couple
Mavericks
of...
charge forward to the cataphracts. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is not looking too hot here. The deployment happens,
the
but...
phalanxes will probably save him, but not before so many Mavericks die. Oh, he's pulling back.
Well, there you go. A little bit of a cleanup happening, and the treasury will also fall.
A little bit of a trade.
A little bit.
What's probably more concerning for Neblime at the moment is the fact there's going to be diadems all over the goddamn place.
Yeah, I'm waiting to
Doesn't
see if
have an
there's
easy
any
way to
more.
deal with them
There's-
at all.
Yeah, there's 2 of them in Benno's third here.
Now, Sentinels can't attack air.
That's correct.
It's a very important thing to note. So, if there isn't like a horde of watchdogs or Cyprians and feet sitting around them, you absolutely can just drop a ton of phalanxes. I mean, cataphracts aren't going to deal a huge amount of damage to them because of their armor. But you can just drop stuff right on top of them for sure.
Yeah, I'm just hearing
I also think
explosions
that
all over the
dropping a
place.
bunch of units into the main mineral line would be a disaster for him too, because I think that's in range of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe the ones on the top left not, but definitely the one that's actually in the main. You could do that for either
Oh my
mineral
god.
line.
There's so many Trojans filled with Mavericks, and they're all at like half health.
Where's that at?
Because they're sweeping up towards the diadems. They killed those cataphracts that were in that expansion,
yes, okay.
taking it, but they're all still so heavily wounded. This is where you just want to build like a couple shamans and just set up like a little psychological recovery shop where you can stick your various wounded units into, and they'll just ambiently heal them with their AoE. It's very nice to have that, but they're actually going to head over to the top left where the Daedala is being built for Neblime. And it's very possible that might even get denied by this, because while there are some Sentinels, that is so many Mavericks.
It's revealed by the mines. That's an important point. And elsewhere, there has been a Daedala or an Atelier being built by Benno. There's a big cataphract drop. It should be able to do some damage. Of course,
they're in range of the diadems. Though.
But look at that. All of the workers just being totally eviscerated. And on the top left, he might have scouted the Daedala, but there's a whole lot of corpses over there, aren't there?
Yeah, they dropped kind of in the wrong position to deal with something. You wanted to be like right on top of them.
No.
But they dropped in the way of the splash. So this expansion is going to go down. A lot of diadems, initial damage from the marker actually caused the cataphracts to task onto that, which avoided the main damage. And now they're beginning to walk across the map. In relative safety, drops are happening inside Benno's main as random cataphracts are showing up inside his base. Again, not very good at actually destroying those because of the armor. So they're going to die miserably, but...
You know, it's the thought that counts. Two more are going to march on in and
it
start...
probably makes them a little uneasy because it's like, oh yeah, he can just drop on top of it. More cataphracts, the ones that walked in from the expansion. Well, to be fair, one Maverick died, so it wasn't a total loss.
Yeah,
it was psychological damage.
You could say worth, yeah.
Daedala completes for Neblime. I'm sure this is going to just make Shambler cringe. It's kind of interesting because you saw that they everybody pays attention to that game with Mystery, and it's like, oh, these are powerful, so everybody's going to make
yes.
And you aren't seeing, as far as I can tell, tier 3 production. There is an Atelier up for Benno though, so I think he might be looking at building some heavy air at some point. Or maybe he built it just because he can. He is actually hurting on minerals though.
Yes, all of his Mavericks and all of his bases are depleted. He hasn't. He lost the one base that had full, minerals. Right, that was
the
one that was
diadems
just sticking out.
were 800 minerals. Maybe they still are.
Yes,
that is quite a chunk when you hit that point, because it was expensive to hit that point anyways. You build the Atelier on top of it, and then you drop 3 of those down, and that's at the stage where you want to have 5,000 minerals. Not that having 5,000 minerals is bad, but that you actually need that to start making that expenditure. And if you can't bounce back from that, you kind of enter his situation where now he has the Atelier.
Look at this. The Trojans following each other around in the top left. A little bit of Canada moment.
Oh, no.
Utter destruction.
It's okay. More are en route. Oh, now they're not en route. I think they were all empty anyways. They were there just to such psychological support.
There's a couple that had a phalanx, and actually I don't know where they all... Oh yeah, there's the one... Yeah, the ones that were new were empty. I don't know what was up with that. But a nanite assembly is being constructed. Yeah, top middle.
2 of them, yeah. Not really the safest place to put them. Probably like somewhere further back away from where there's constant activity. But
the Daedala also lifted off, so it can't be used until it's landed. And that's a thing that maybe Neblime doesn't know about. Yeah, he has not landed it. So I don't know if he intends to do something.
He might even forget it exists and build another one.
Oh man, don't say that.
I can see that happen. Now there is a Seraph. Did he build any silos? I don't think he has any silos.
I don't think so.
No, because he built quarries everywhere, right? He has a silo.
He does. Okay. Well, there's observance happening here. A couple Seraphs here could drop a nuke. It will go ahead and happen, but it's in a very open position. It's targeted onto the diadems, but they aren't targeting the Seraph itself.
They could shoot it. The one could shoot it, but he's not going to have time.
No.
And so it begins.
Here we go. Nuclear lunch detected.
The NCL died for this. It died for your sins.
And that will be one diadem going down with the damage from the irradiation field. I think maybe another one will also go down. It's actually being repaired. It's being repaired by Masons who are also being irradiated, but I think they might be able to save it. Oh, he even lifts it off. God. Oh, it's a massacre
One must die for your sins.
of untold proportions. And I don't
good.
know. It's spread to the bunker, or the anchor rather. It's even going to blow up there. Wow, 25 HP can be repaired.
Can you get it? Benno.
No,
Benno,
Benno.
my man.
Benno,
my
no.
man, Benno.
Benno, no. Oh,
No.
oh, 12 by the way.
He knows
Oh,
it's
10.
He knows it's slow.
9,
Quick, hurry.
8.
Spinning.
Oh, he got
Ah.
it. Oh, thank goodness. I thought it was going to be a real tragedy. Oh, here comes the
Seraph
Seraph looking for more.
another snipe, but
Yeah.
maybe he'll realize you can just fly over his stuff and have them friendly fire.
Oh, here's another drop.
the
Yeah.
cataphracts, the ideal unit to destroy.
Oh,
the
wow.
items.
It's GG is called. That seems
he
awfully
sees it.
strange. Yeah, that's... I think it's because the nanite assemblies were the ones being dropped on. He finally dropped some Hadrons, but it just wasn't enough, it seems like, and the diadems will go ahead and not win the day, actually. Neblime somehow grinding out a victory.
It was psychological death.
It was all the dead Mavericks, I think, weighed on
Yeah.
his soul, you know? I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the units killed, Neblime killed 250 units.
It's 200 Mavericks
Yeah.
and like 40 workers,
Yeah.
5 Sentinels or Trojans.
I'm looking at the score screen now, and I feel like we could probably update this if it was possible. It's very hard to update UI in Brood War, but if it was possible, it would be useful to know like specifically which units were killed, especially like a military versus worker kill count would be useful. But yeah, all right. Well, let's see what map Benno. He clearly is a fan of the diadem. And I guess we'll just go by, technically, Benno, obviously this is a best of 3 between these guys now, but Benno, having lost that, will maintain the map advantage. So now I have to pull up the map pool because he's asking me tough questions here, so give me 1 second. So we have Infinite Velocity, Megalith Empire, and Terminus.
This guy's dad sounds like a great man. When Brood War was released, he mind-controlled one of the Sultans?
Yeah, I don't know what he's trying to say there. There's clearly
I
a
don't know.
broken English.
I don't know. He sounds like a great fellow.
All right. It has been chosen. Megalith Empire, similar to Maim Street, is a very short map. So I will take a water break here, and I shall return momentarily. Until then, feel free
I
to
will also
yeah,
head off for just a moment.
there you go. We shall return in a moment. And I have returned. I'm not sure about Mesk. Sounds like he's still a little bit away, so we'll check this out.
Okay.
All right. How you feeling so far, Mez? This is going pretty well, I think. Pretty interesting.
Well, I think the newer players are proving a lot more like I expected people to really struggle. Like when I played, I really struggled.
Right.
But obviously, I hadn't played Starcraft for like 10 years prior.
Yeah, and these guys are seemingly quite regular
Yeah.
by comparison.
So I think it's definitely going pretty good. Like I said, I was favored for Mystery just because, he's had, as far as I've seen, very high consistency.
Yes.
But I think that you give these guys, a few months, they will also be at that level.
Yeah, they
Or
certainly
pretty close
could.
to
Yeah, it's quite interesting, quite compelling. Well, we are on to our second game of the final best of series. Obviously, the Ascension
best
play has essentially ended. This is now the sixth game, and we are looking at Neblime with a 1-0 lead over Benno. Now gone 1-2 overall in the group. Benno going 0-3 so far. So looking to change his fortune as
Is it
we
really
enter.
quarry again for Benno? Or is the stockade for Neblime?
Yes, the green Terran in the top is indeed Neblime. Benno, the teal Terran in the bottom. Now, Megalith Empire is a Y-symmetric map. It's also very close by in terms of rush distance, but there's plenty of cliff advantage, and the rotation for the backstab is quite significant for ground units. So what we've normally seen on this map is either hyper-aggressive, fast ground units. You think of like the Protoss Zealot or Legionnaire, or even obviously the Zethricore for the Zerg. You don't really see that too often for Terran by comparison, but if you do see a Maverick-heavy focus out of either of these players, they could actually quite early surprise you. The other thing to note
is
is...
a great map for feet.
It is a great map for feet. There's actually feet in the middle.
There's very, very little distance. Yes,
Yeah.
there's neutral feet in the map. You can touch the feet and stick units inside of there.
You can't lift off neutral anchors, but you can indeed occupy them if they're empty. And they'll
This
change
was always
color
a
and stuff.
confusing map for me because it changed between when I was playing.
Yes, yeah.
And then, I lost track of where the back entrance is. It's quite easy to lose track of that back entrance if you're not careful.
And technically, there is an even longer distance that goes all the way around the left side of the map to backstab. So that's another thing you can watch out for as the game progresses. Now, Neblime is going to move forward with a Cyprian quite early on and do some damage to this Mason. But I think maybe he intended to move a little bit further down towards that neutral anchor. There's a Cyprian.
I think that him
for
following
Benno
the
as well.
Mason was entirely unintentional
Yeah.
because he's just pulled off at that point.
Now, there you go. A second one will silence that. But he scouts the second stockade. That's important news for Benno. He should be expecting, especially since there's no quarry. This is a pace play. Neblime looking to close out the series early. Which reminds me, I have to update the score. So let me do that real quick.
So he should be building an anchor pretty soon here. As soon as he hits that sweet spot. But there are only 2 Cyprians in front of his base. So he could hold this just with the cliff advantage alone. But when you see the 2 stockades, you got to know it's just going to be aggression.
Yep. There's even a Mason going in the back line. You could imagine it could drop an anchor and maybe not be scouted. But I think instead he's just going to use this to scout out the positioning, maybe even provoke Benno's Cyprians to move out, and that would obviously give him the ability to move up the ramp without losing out on the initial vision and range bonus. So another thing to think about. And look at this, we even have a Mason going from the top. So there's actually a pretty big worker investment for scouting that obviously, considering there's no quarry for Neblime, that could turn in, if he doesn't make something happen with this early aggression, this could be, very bad actually for him, depending on how things
He's
work
actually
out.
outnumbered on Cyprians at the front at the moment. So
Oh, look at this. It's exactly what we saw. Will he pull the trigger?
And
It looks
here
like
he
he will.
goes.
Yeah, he's going to move in even though he's
still
outnumbered.
though, so
Yeah, it's down to the micro. Focus firing good from both players, so it should go the way of Benno indeed. But, that's still...
very decisive.
Yeah, it's still a little bit of early pressure. I think at this point, there is the quarry all the way up for Neblime, so he knows that he
really
needs to go
deflates
economically.
Neblime's aggression because he's only just started building a Cyprian. Now there's another one. He started building in the top left, so I think at this point he's turning away from that aggression and
Yes.
going back into maybe looking towards tier 2 again. As you can see, he's starting to take more gas. Now there's no ridge in the main on this map.
Yes.
So this is a little bit lower gas income than the others. So that expansion is going to make a big deal for him. Also because the natural expansion right next has 2 ridges, whereas the one that Neblime took in the top left, and very possibly why he decided to take it after scouting so much, is because it has the 2 geysers and the 1 ridge, so it's a lot more gas heavy. And I think the minerals are about the same. but
It's
definitely
13
a lot more
minerals
gas.
compared to like 8 or 9 or 10, depending on which other base. So it's actually, it's a very rich base, but it's very far away. So you can imagine if it gets
Especially
scouted.
for Cyprians.
Yeah, absolutely. Benno is going to go ahead and clear the middle of the map. The anchor was not garrisoned. Neither player currently using that. And it looks like Benno wants to attack the back, thinking that there's going to be an expansion there. When he finds that and there's nothing there, he should
He just
remember.
keeps moving forward.
Now, the Blime is threatening here. He's building an anchor in the expansion of Benno, but he has a Cyprian as well to sort of ward off any attacks. So this is going to demand some action, and I'm not sure if Benno is going to pull down his forces. He's not rallying anything over. Like, if this anchor gets set up, it's going to be a lot harder to root out. I think this is a bit of a mistake from Benno.
Yeah, but if those 4 Cyprians go right into the Neblime's
Yeah.
main, they stand to deal a massive amount of damage.
Yeah.
But they're just chilling out there at the moment.
Right, we have to see what he wants to do exactly. He has a couple of Cyprians. He's actually moving them up. He looks like
the ideal thing probably for this anchor would be to move it away from the expansion and take it to the main and try to
Yes.
snipe workers with it. But he doesn't have any information over there at the moment. And these Cyprians at Neblime's empty expansion are not moving forward.
He's
waiting for some
reinforcing.
reinforcements.
Yep, he's bringing in 4 more full healthy Cyprians. This is going to allow him to wrap around in a quite threatening attack that could even kill the anchor. Like, this is actually quite significant and could be a very early attack. Like, Neblime probably feels pretty good. He's stopped the expansion from going down. He has his own expansion that's going to give him a lot more value once set up. And yeah, very significant there as
There is a
Treasury
Cyprian,
lands.
2 Cyprians. I think his rally is on a Mason or something because there's 2 Cyprians that were stuck onto a Mason
Oh,
inside of
interesting.
Neblime's main.
Yeah, he's pulled them off. Oh, no, yeah, there he is. He's refactored that a little bit. He's actually moving them. They are very out of
the wall
position.
of Cyprians is marching in,
Yeah.
and his units are moving out into the ramp.
This is pretty
Some
spooky.
of them are low on health, but it's still a lot of potential damage.
Yeah.
He immediately unbunkered, charged forward to the Masons to try to draw their fire.
Yeah, this is actually really good response from Neblime. The pulling the boys there, plus the early attacks from the, hitting the fulcrum, even when it's incomplete, still has armor. So will indeed, repulse.
You're going
that
to take
attack,
losses anyway, so try to, minimize it by immediate and decisive action. Absolutely let him pull out there, but he's got 2 Masons with him he doesn't need to have with him at the moment.
Yeah, true. There won't be any casualties there for Neblime at the end there, and he is training more Cyprians to stock that
There
anchor.
is actually a Mason about to destroy this treasury. Oh.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone.
Oh, he lifted, but it's too late.
It's too late.
It's
3,
too
2,
late.
1, boom. See ya.
Oh.
Yeah, and Neblime is moving out down here too. So at this point, the table is flipped, right? Like there's a clear advantage here for Neblime in this matchup. He's even going to build another
If he
anchor.
gets caught single file though, or if they go on the cliff and spot it, oh no.
Oh,
it's a train
jeez.
wreck.
Ah, gosh. Ah, golly gee whiz. Well, this anchor is still up, so this could give him a little bit
It's
of
still here.
opportunity, yeah. He's not splitting his Cyprians either, so some of them are
He'll
getting
get a
pierced
couple
little
kills in that it probably shouldn't have.
bit. Yeah. Yeah, just 2 Cyprians. That's still expensive, 75 minerals, 25 gas a pop
Cost
for those.
equivalent,
So. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a Goliath coming out for Neblime.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't have as much
No.
production as Benno, but the problem is Benno doesn't have as much economy, so it almost doesn't matter right now. Like,
No.
Neblime can
Benno
go the
does
tech
have bottom
route.
left though.
He does, yeah. So they will have a parity once that base gets saturated. It's just, he's also going for the
He's
middle.
also taking, yeah.
That's interesting.
That's a great expansion on this map. I love taking that expansion. It's such out of the way, but especially I won games off of Zerg by building my main in there after my main was being destroyed and holding off. I don't know if it was Shambler or you or someone. They were attacking my top left because I thought that was the only one, but I was holding that expansion. It's 4 geysers.
Yes.
There's a lot of gas in that expansion if you can hold it. And Benno may be thinking of just going straight to tier 2, maybe even replicating what he did last game and going, to tier 3, because diadems on a map like this are very strong.
Yeah, if it gets to that point, that's one of the reasons why there's that low rush distance is, in theory, it will close the game a little bit sooner than you would expect. But in practice, if it does go that far, the diadems, if they're at all forward, they don't exactly reach the mineral line from the south position. Like, they won't reach Benno's mineral line from Neblime's top, but they will certainly control a significant portion of the map.
Now, Benno did try to take this anchor in main of Neblime, but with the Mason repairing, he ended up losing everything in that exchange.
Yeah.
And now Neblime's going to take that expansion, so Benno's aggression there pretty much immediately thwarted. He does, however, have the customary mass amount of Mavericks slowly amassing. He's not really sure how to spend his minerals at this point. He starts spending a lot of minerals. It's when you kind of need to like start dropping down your refineries, getting in more gas income, and, you know, maybe building additional production structures, preparing for tier 2.
Yeah.
Perhaps building additional anchors.
It's important to note
at this
too.
Point are going to help him a lot.
The reservoir is now something that requires tier 2. And that's also true for Zerg as well. So in order to even cap your geysers, you do need tier 2 now. Protoss instead just have much more expensive ones. So if you do it really early, well, maybe in a team game it would be viable, just like your silly move once upon a time to go for, I think it was Sanctum of Sorrow first. Your first unit was a Mind Tyrant. So yeah, you can do all sorts of silly stuff. Maybe we'll see some of that when we switch over to Group B, but...
So he is mining all that gas, starting it up in that expansion. It's undefended at the moment, but there's no scouting going on. So it's as good as secret for now. Neblime is building a fountainhead.
And an Atlas coming down, of course,
Atlas,
for Benno. Yeah.
So he's a little behind on the tech, but his economy is going to be a lot stronger with this expansion coming. He's going to have a lot of gas banked up. And... some watchdogs and such being built by Neblime. They both kind of just like, you know, after that last little exchange, they both kind of cooled off a little bit. But this Goliath does not spot that expansion.
Yeah, that's crucial. Yeah,
and even going to run. Oh, and it spots the Cyprian.
It's going to run afoul of those infantry, but the response from Benno isn't quick enough to stop the Goliath from confirming the bottom left position, which will certainly become an area of, you know, interest.
And now when he tries to move forces down there, he might end up just coming across that other expansion too, right?
Yes, yeah. That's another thing.
Because those infantry are coming up there to defend it, not to attack, it looks like.
Which makes sense.
Is something you always got to be
your...
mindful of.
Yes.
Is if you see something going up there and they never go to your base, there's got to be a reason they're up there, right? So that might lead to him scouting again. There's even a second Goliath. I don't know
it's not going to do the same thing.
Why it's going down there on its own now when there's defenders there. But
it's being rallied from the fulcrum that's in that position.
There's another one coming too. Two of them are on...
Attack move to the ramp, or to the bridge rather. This one actually going a little bit too far is going to get popped, so Neblime might not be happy with himself there. He has indeed started to build more workers, but he's actually down from Benno's worker count.
There's a third Goliath. It'll succeed where the other two failed. Oh, maybe not.
I think what he knows is he already knows what's up. There are 4 mantles, 2 of which are building cataphracts in Neblime's base, so that is going to be quite the useful tool against the bio focus. I think I briefed you before we started here, Mesk, that Benno really likes his bio play, and I think that's been borne out. You know, he's not really gone for too many fulcrums, but he does have 3, 2 of which have palladiums, so we will indeed see some phalanxes.
He went to diadems, he built those.
Yes.
But he still had predominantly tier 1 infantry.
Yes, yeah.
So the cataphracts are basically that. That is the perfect opponent for him. This entirely what they do is a multi-hit. And... you know, maybe not that great against the hard-end base defenses, but it's not like there's a lot of them. Like, in Tier 2, with all those excess minerals, it's great to just start building a million Sentinels. He's got a couple of them, but...
this is audacious from Neblime, taking the treasury in the bottom middle, right in front of Benno's base.
It.
Yeah. Well, if you can lock it down, he's got an anchor coming, he's got the cataphracts out, so in theory, but the phalanxes are here, so they will be able to riposte this. Now look at this, the anchor's positioning is going straight for where the phalanx is going, and will indeed get the land off, so that's kind of
better
cute.
late than never to put
it
feet in their base.
Instantly cancels whatever that was, looks like it was an anchor.
And
oh, Benno,
might even die to this.
No, Benno, no! Oh, good.
It's being tickled
to
death.
Yeah, it'll get out, but that was still a bit spooky. Cataphracts are here.
Cataphracts move forward. Oh.
Has to fall back a little bit. And look at this. He could land the anchor right within minimum range.
The fact that he is deterring this phalanx and moving it away allows those cataphracts to move forward.
Phalanx gets sniped.
Way more. It died. This is way more effective than it really should have been.
Yeah, the response time a little bit slow there, but it shouldn't be GG. There's plenty of units being produced, and that anchor is on fire. So while the cataphracts are here, the Cyprians can indeed and will kill this first cataphract. So that's a good victory here for Benno in that sense. He might even lose the next one as well. Looks like he will. So there's a little bit of...
Cyprians are kind of tanky, and they only deal like 10 damage to them. So
yes. Yeah. Oh, there's a drop in the middle, though. Middle right. We have a couple of cataphracts being deployed here. They're mostly targeting the sentinels, which they will start to kill some of, but it's not going to be enough to actually deal economic damage. So
They have 3 armor, so
yeah. And only 1 armor pen. The Masons, get them.
Flying. One of the lasers is attacking the ridge. No, that's a sentinel. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there was one that was like point blank and turning weirdly, but it was still dealing damage. It's just a visual bug that is kind of unfortunate. There's a Fulcrum with a Palladium blocking all movement you would ever want in this middle left base here for Benno.
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's a very unfortunate.
Oh,
no!
Look at that! Look at that! That was
that's
big
an
play
interesting
there.
way to discover that there is an expansion there filled with stuff.
I think
I'm not sure
now,
if he had scouted it before and then was trying to drop it, but at the very least, now he's utterly aware that it's there.
Yeah.
What was in there? Cataphracts?
Yes, 2 cataphracts in each. So that was a very expensive loss.
Yeah, that's an expensive loss.
And not only that, but Benno was floating almost 3,000 gas. He has a Daedala now down. It's being produced, but you can tell like the income he has is very formidable. When you're floating that much gas, especially now that he's going to start sieging out this position and stopping Neblime from getting too much value out of it, the drops are good, but I'm not sure that he can close from here if it goes long.
Does he realize that Neblime has taken the base literally right in front of him? He knows there's turrets there, but just doesn't know the treasure is there.
Right, yeah. Can't check vision. That's definitely a feature that would be nice. Now, the cataphracts are going to drop in here. They're going a little far. They won't obviously die, but yeah, they'll manage to get out. But they're being clumped up as well for the phalanxes and not even targeting down the Cyprians initially. And not splitting.
Doing a lot of damage.
Yeah. Now, they will eventually pop them.
They died, but they got a lot of damage in, and he's got another one that should be able to pick these off. Good shot. Maximizing damage on the weak ones. When it goes down. They could get a lot of worker kills in, though.
They can, yeah. It takes 7 shots for them to kill a Mason, but that's more than possible, and they attack up to 4 targets. So this is quite. He's
not responding to
powerful,
this. Not fast enough. He's trying to siege out of range, but one has like no health, so he can have their DPS very quickly here.
Yeah.
Oh,
here comes more.
Here comes another.
This is short-lived, surely, but this is still quite a powerful move here.
It's
he's not even. I don't think
I
he's
love
going to kill a single phalanx with that, but
a bunch of them are in minimum range, though.
yeah, he does get one. He gets one on the way out.
Meanwhile, on the left side of the map, there's a handful of Benno's units just sitting there waiting for a trickle down of single Goliaths again.
Yes, yeah. Any sort of offensive move will at least be caught ahead. There's
this time, Neblime has stepped up his tactics, bringing in Fabrics.
Yeah, he's trying to do the zealot bombs that you would do in TVP, but not quite as effective, perhaps. That's cute, though. Does kill the watchdog, the worker building the watchdog. So, and the base
reservoirs coming up for Neblime. He's going to need them because all of these cataphract drops have totally depleted his gas.
Yes, and he has no Daedala, unlike his opponent here. He has the Fountainhead, obviously, for the mantles, but he doesn't really have a path out just yet. So once he gets that gas income, he desperately actually needs to hold on to this base that's right in front of Benno's main.
He's even investing 2 reservoirs into it.
Yeah,
so he's going to build a stockade there, too. May as well, I guess.
Yeah, it's just for localized reinforcements for anchors and such. It makes sense to do that. This Trojan is very low HP. If a single, sneeze happens, he only has... Oh, no! Look at all those phalanx shots. Yeah, that's going to be nice and easy taken out. We got more cataphracts coming down.
This is very expensive, and...
it does go down.
Out, but...
He gets, like, a couple shots. He gets one more worker kill on the way out, because why wouldn't you? There you go. And that Trojan could also be
Neblime is like 18 steps ahead of himself here, and he's kind of getting a little too aggressive. It's costing him. It's keeping his resources, constantly losing them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Benno has 2,500 gas. You want to go straight to Phobos's? Well, the Atelier is also up, so that's 2,700 gas on top of already having started the Atelier.
Yes, that's tier 3.5 for those keeping count. Very big technological advantage here. And while I do like the 5 Mavericks in the queue for the stockades, I don't know if that's going to be the difference maker exactly. But he's not even harvesting gas from the ridges in the the contemporary natural, right? The conventional one that's in Neblime's right side.
Benno trying to put some pressure here onto the left side, but he's going to lose his stockade, and I don't know how he's going to survive that.
Yeah, the Goliath's firing off. Oh, he's aggroed some.
The Goliaths.
Yeah, they're coming.
The single file Goliaths are on the way. They might kill that phalanx. They're gonna
kill it. They won't even be able to defend itself. Yeah. all of that, and
Oh
it
my
took
God,
like
they
almost
escaped.
it took almost a minute for Neblime to actually respond to that when it was first starting.
Absolute audacity. Meanwhile,
Wow, yeah, look at this little hit
Neblime's
squad sneaking
cataphracts.
through. Yeah, there's nothing to protect the main passageway, so this base is now going to be in jeopardy.
absolutely tickled to death. Gotta get right at get right up in his taint. Yep, right into the ball sack. Just grab him. Yep. Oh.
Yeah, this
They
is
die a lot faster when you've got 4 of them.
yes, no kidding. So that will be a total mop. And look at this bio being the answer. I don't think that's going to help you exactly, but he does have 2 diadems being erected in his base, so there's
He has
something
to give
here.
a sacrifice before the diadems come out. No, is he gonna? No, he's bottling it, bunching up. Gotta go around that corner first. Yeah. You did a little timeout corner.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to matter too much. There's,
Oh no!
yeah, the first diadem. Hey, that's big news here. Now Neblime knows his Daedal is not even done yet. It's halfway done, not even. So he is at a
He's
severe
trying to dance
technical
back and
deficit.
forth. He's aware,
Yeah.
but he still has to give the sacrifice. He has to pay his dues, pay his debts, just like the Lannisters. One cataphract is.
Oh my God! Look,
targeting
5
the diadem. Off he
HP.
goes.
Oh, died to the beacon. We have some empty transports from Neblime, I assume. Yeah, that looks like it was a drop in the main. Maybe a bunch of Ramses. Wasn't successful at killing too much, it looks like. But,
There's just a little bit of rubble here and there.
yeah.
Trying to take out the diadem, but you need some units that hit pretty hard up front, like maybe some tier 3 units. He is heading up to tier 3.
Yeah, Daedal
The
chipping away here.
diadem's worded that it is expansion, but he's still lost the expansion, which is going to put a slight dent in that income that sits him at 3,000. And that is after building 2 nanite assemblies.
Yeah, this guy's got gas for days. Minerals, maybe not so much after losing that bottom left base, which was much more valuable for the mineral amount. His main
Now, if
being
he goes
depleted.
to hippogriffs, this is going to be an absolute massacre.
That is true, yeah. He's actually, it's funny because he doesn't even need the gas in that base. He's just building right over it so that he can get his nanites up.
No.
And, it makes sense. Keep him out of the way. Funnily enough, there was no star pad in either of these games, I don't think. Oh, there's actually 2 of them out for Neblime. So he's rally. Of course, there were because of the Trojans, but it's curious that nobody went for a Wraith Scout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not seeing wraiths or Anseals really, other than mystery. Although at this stage in the game, the Anseals aren't really super useful. But they could help a little bit when you're trying to tank down cataphracts with Mavericks. It gives them a lot more effective health.
Yes. You know what else is true is that the diadems are being constructed on the other side of the wall here, too. There's one on the low ground, so...
Hell, why not?
The problem is that
They could attack those expansions if he had something to scout them.
Yeah, the problem is that as soon as Benno gets any sort of vision, which he could do if he had a star pad
The
for the
Mavericks. The Maverick drop from Neblime.
Where's
He
it at?
knows the true power, the path. It's assembling in the middle of the
Oh,
map.
I
He's
see.
got 2 Seraphs. He knows the holy way, the way of the Maverick. And I think he intends to try to attack that expansion, maybe?
He
He was
2
going to go over there, but then he stopped.
He has 2 Atlases, but they're not armed. So he can't actually deploy Morning Stars, our name for the nuclear missile. So that's actually a pretty big deal. Oh, wait, it's not supposed to be Atlas. It's supposed to be Anvil. I just screwed up the name, apparently. Fix that later. It's 2 Anvils. Can't deploy the
He's
Morning
also
Star.
building his own diadems.
Yes, he's got plenty. Now,
So
here comes the response.
He's going straight for the main
Yep.
instead of the expansion. The Mavericks are the ideal weapon of choice against this kind of heavy armor. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness, look at all the failing shots. And they're within minimum range of the diadem. They can't even really aggro that one in particular. Some irradiates did go out to try to...
irradiate.
didn't
He
hurt,
get that
yeah.
worker line.
But Minotaurs have arrived, and that kind of gives up the game. Seraph's falling. One of them will stay alive, just barely. But I think that's going to be the initial sort of nail in the coffin here. I don't know how
his 2 diadems are almost finished.
Oh, no.
If he can just hold on.
Well, the first one's down. Minotaurs and...
Cataphracts aren't exactly amazing against Minotaurs. Another nuke.
Yep, it's gone on. It's going to be targeting that front line there where that phalanx is, just beyond the ramp. And yeah, the diadems here, the Minotaurs. The Minotaur versus Cataphract is like the ultimate slap fight, laser fight. They can't really do too much damage. Oh no, he's actually walked in a little bit. Took a lot of damage onto those Cataphracts.
That's okay. Irradiate is to be shared.
Irradiate is to be shared. Partner up.
There is just random beach balls flying around, but they're not focusing on the diadems exclusively.
Ah, this one
So
right
the
on the
one
fulcrums. So that could be quite significant. He's started some Phoboses. Over a minute of build time, guys. This is gonna take a little bit, but if he can hold on long enough, he
One
can start to
diadem
really
goes
do some
down in
serious
Benno's
damage.
base.
While another
But
one's gonna return.
In
Yeah.
the blast base, it's a trade. He's
Yeah.
got some more drops preparing. These ones are heading to that expansion, looks like, but that expansion is still very well fortified, and I don't think they're going to accomplish anything. He's going to need the heavy transfers. Oh, he wants the stray diadem. It's got no health.
Oh no, look at that. It was burning down this whole time. He will indeed be able to... Oh, well, if it was repaired, it would be one thing, but...
He's got the fancy footwork.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was... Oh, it's a tragedy.
I'm afraid for this Minotaur, I think it's going to go ahead and call kaput there.
Oh, it died.
And the other diadem in Benno's main has been destroyed. He's building another one. And the Phoboses, they are coming to completion here. Another Hadron. Loads of money for Benno. No problems there with the money. He's got tons. But
he's got to start. He starts making some hippogriffs. He's going to be able to make huge headway. But the Phoboses are still not really fast enough to really do the sweeping damage he needs to do to the base. But they will put a stop to the Cataphracts to keep dropping on top of him. That's for sure.
Yeah, and look at this in the bottom.
Watchdog spots for the expansion.
Yeah, and this is a really important base, but so too is it for Neblime. So if this gets responded to in any way, could be a big deal. Now, Phoboses aren't really the best choice to go up against something like a Diadem. The main issue is that they are not very mobile, and that's really what you want more than anything. There's more Ion Wars happening in the top left, of course, but it's looks like there was an attempted move, perhaps. A bunch of Goliaths ended up going down. Phoboses are indeed firing their lasers, clearing out the spotter. Now, there is a Trojan over here, a couple of them, and they've even been defense matrixed by an Azazel. Probably the first time I've seen that in a long time. And they're going to go ahead and drop the units, but...
they're going to get hit by...
Okay, the Phobos is still
the
alive.
needle on that one.
Yeah, still alive. Can be repaired. Oh, there's just so many of them.
So many diadems.
Yeah, that mineral line in the upper, the middle right is...
He's got the future station. Neblime knows the holy path, and he has a claymore. That will deal some damage to the buildings.
Well, he's also building some nanite assemblies. Could be going for Penumbras, one of my favorite units, personally.
Penumbras are also pretty good against buildings, but they are really slow.
Yeah,
so
versus diadems, I don't know if it's the right move, exactly.
There are so many Masons following the Phoboses right into certain death.
Now there's 4 of them now. He's amassed quite the army. Not going for the Hippogriffs, though, which are a little bit more mobile and do quite a bit more damage as well. And these Cataphracts, they are just tickling the Phobos.
He just wants to dive the diadems, but it's
Canada.
It's folly.
Well, he's gonna do some pretty good damage, and unfortunately he's all stacked up. He's not moving. He's not moving. Oh, look at that. It doesn't even kill the diadem. Oh, it does.
Oh, he got it.
He managed. If that's not a cost-efficient trade, my man, that's the GG. And Neblime, he'll go ahead and qualify into the playoffs.
Psychological defeat.
Psychological defeat, indeed.
Don't look, Shambler.
Don't look, Shambler. It was a Terran group, and it was a total ion-fueled disaster.
Neblime ended the game with a similar kill count to the last game.
Oh yeah, I didn't even look through the score screen.
248 kills.
Yeah.
But Benno had built almost 400 units, so there was a lot of Mavericks on the map that did not get molested.
Well, I suppose that will do it. That will decide our groups. So if you'll give me a moment, I can even go ahead and put the details on here. So we have the final score. We have Mystery, Neblime, Benno. Okay. Let's go ahead and show that. There's a very high technology move on the stream there to show you guys the default OBS text. You know what? I can change the font. There you go. Now it's not default. All right. Well, that was Group A. Mask, do you have thoughts about the players here as they seed into playoffs?
I hope Shambler prepares himself if he's the one to come and face the Ion War. Because it's coming one way or another.
Yeah, well, there's a guaranteed Terran in both phases of the finals, so or both phases of playoffs rather. It's quite the remarkable move, I think.
It's always interesting because when you have a project that you have either developed or played or whatever for a long time, you always, regardless if you're playing with yourself or with AI or with a group of people, you enter your community meta kind of thing, your localized meta. And then when you have a third party enter it, their way of dealing with it and their way of learning with it and whatever is going to be completely different than yours in all likelihood. Particularly when you have a setup like this, we have with a group of people of different skill levels that were playing against each other, and then the project was very volatile all throughout it. Like for me, it was like every time I played it, the whole damn thing changed. And you know, everybody kind of like gets into their own sort of thing. Like Shambler would play like tons of border cores, and you know, before that I was all Hydras, and you know, and it was like quasi spam. You know, you just had like the kind of like accepted things that people would do. But now you have two people who basically they had a little bit of experience prior to it. And I don't think for Neblime it was any more than like a couple of hours.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was very recent. I think that he.
They have to learn very quickly, especially against Mystery. You know, which obviously, you know, maybe he hasn't played that much in the last while, and maybe he had some weak spots in his play. But otherwise, you know, he kind of gets the gist of what everything does, even if things have changed. He understands the tech progression. You know, maybe what units he wants at certain stages of the game. You know, if he looks at what the opponent's building, he can infer what they're going to do. So you get that where they have to learn. It's a trial by fire. They have to learn very quickly. But what we would see is that they didn't really like try to do really extraordinarily different things. Like once they saw the diadem come out of Mystery, they both latched onto that very quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they that was like their holy grail. The same was for the phalanxes too, because Mystery went phalanxes, and they were like, oh my god, we gotta get those two.
Yes. Yeah.
So as a result, we never got to see Madrigal drops, which are by far more busted than any of the things that was going on in these games. We didn't get to see like, you know, wyverns. We did get to see seraphs and nukes, which was very interesting. That they went to the seraphs and the nukes as opposed to going for like we saw like infantry heavy, but we only saw a couple of tier 2 infantry out of the one game. We didn't see them devote to the madcap spam. You know, obviously it would be a lot more effective than the maverick spam. You know, a little bit more setup because you need the tier 2 building. We didn't see like Olympians. We didn't see any of the other more specialized units. We didn't see the Eidolons or whatever.
Right.
You know, because they don't know about those units.
Yes.
And then, you know, they haven't like experimented with those. So you see like their thought process. You get to watch in real time as they discover new things and then try to play with those new things and then try to make power plays with them. And then what was very interesting about this interaction is that you had them both go up against Mystery. So you had two people who were at the lower end, you know, of the experience and you know, and as a result, the skill level that they had to learn about the trial by fire, in which he basically put them into a fire ring range, and he just demonstrated to the various parts of the games by using it against them. And then those two people went against each other.
Yes.
Now, from this very, very limited sample size, I would say that they both probably have comparable skill levels. Now, maybe that's very wrong. Maybe in standard Brood War, one of them has a much higher skill level than the other. But at least when we even the playing field with the experience at this point, when we watched those two games, the games could have really gone either way.
Yes.
It was just very silly and autistic circumstances that led to certain things. And those circumstances were usually as a result of them trying to make power plays without really having a lot of experience. But those power plays, kind of like a good chunk of them came as a result of what they learned from playing against Mystery, where Mystery showed them specific parts of the game that then they kind of like tried to replicate because they saw how effective as it was. And then that became something they were a little more comfortable with because, you know, they had at least seen it demonstrated to a point. They at least fought it. They kind of understood how it worked. And then the main thing that I saw really diverted from that was how they became very drop heavy. They both did.
Yes.
And like, you know, Benno kind of like went drop heavy, and then the blind was like, this is being really effective. Wonder if I can make it effective. Maybe they're both drop heavy players of Brood War anyways, but we didn't really see that quite as much with Mystery. We did see Neblime doing that a little bit. But then we saw, like, you know, we reached these games where they got, you know, after they passed the comfort zone of Tier 1, the games would slow down a little bit. And then we would start seeing them do really silly things. Like, Neblime started building a lot of cataphracts, and it's like, these are very effective.
Yeah, I'm just going to drop them.
They were very effective because Benno was building Mavericks against them for the most part. So, yes, they're going to massacre Mavericks. And but then he just like kept doing that, and then obviously the diadems and you know phalanxes when they weren't in siege mode had a lot of armor, so they were not very effective against those. They weren't very effective against the phalanxes in general because of the damage difference and the range difference. So, but it was something that he was having success with, so he kind of stuck with it. But we did see towards the end of that game that he was like, okay, I am in tier 3, and I'm going to start, building tier 3 stuff. So then we started to see the Claymore come out. And I think that even if the Phoboses hadn't have died, or if Benno had stuck in the game, if Benno had not went into Hippogriffs, Neblime was now going to find, some success with the Claymores and some of those other units that he's going to start building, that they realizes that this is what these units are good for. They're the ones with the upfront damage we need to actually destroy that armor. And then that was probably going to lead towards him starting to take more control of the map anyways. I mean, I think if he had taken that left base, the one with the 4 geysers, then that would have probably been that would have isolated a big chunk in the map.
Yep.
He would have had a grounding place to start threatening that bottom left again, and then he would have been in a pretty good spot. Whereas I think with Benno, it was his, just the misfortune, or maybe just, his line of thought that this is the most expensive air unit, so it's probably going to be the best. But it wasn't going to be the best for this specific case, and for that you really wanted Hippogriffs, but he didn't know that.
Yeah, Hippogriffs or Centaurs would have skipped the Hadron requirement entirely, so that would have been a big deal too. Yeah, there's loads of little things that. Do you have a highlight game, one that was your favorite to watch and cast?
I mean, that last game was pretty silly all in all. I just loved the relentless. And the Maim Street one was also really funny because both of those were really back and forth, particularly in Maim Street, where they were just discovering how strong Sentinels are. And, it was just, from my experience, it's just unusual to see Terran hit tier 2 in the map just not fill with Sentinels. Usually the mass of Sentinels is when you realize, oh yeah, now they're in tier 2. Right. And then the game kind of changes a lot around that. You didn't really see this. So you saw them brave the Sentinels, trying to drop them with mass Mavericks and Cataphracts to varying degrees of success, and lots of other just really silly things all over the place. And it was just they were not at the stage that I would be at, where I see all these defenses and I think I'm not going to drop this unless I'm absolutely 100% confident, and I'm probably not going to use Trojans to drop it. With them, it's fuck it. Balls to the wall, just go all in, no matter what happens. So it was just incredibly volatile as a result. It was just extremely silly.
I think my personal favorite is probably the game on Equilibrium, the Ashworld map. I think the reason why I like that was Mystery Meat against Neblime, where Mystery Meat ends up making a tier 1 push with just barely having started as tier 2, and really tried. It showed that you can attack a Terran. Yes, yeah, you can.
Yeah, that was a very
attack into a
interesting
Terran
match
one.
too,
Yeah, I like about that is that it's not just a game of turtling. It's not just a game of I can just defend forever. You have the tools in a very different way, a very different unit composition, in fact, than what was being deployed by Neblime. Mystery Meat was able to come in and charge in. There was all the cleric silliness of the cleric drill, the medic drill, like you were saying. All
and
that
it wasn't
stuff.
It didn't all end at once either.
Yes.
The main thing that kicked off the down spiral at that point was when he moved out the anchors.
Yes.
And the Goliaths were able just to move in and snipe them.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the end of the story.
No,
there was this long, protracted engagement with all these nuances throughout it as a result of that.
Yeah.
I think a whole mix of units. You had Madcaps and Phalanxes.
Yes, yeah. I mean, imagine if he had managed to drop an Apostle in the mix there, would have totally turned the tide. It's obviously much less busted than it used to be, the Reclamation idea, but it still would have probably assisted him quite a bit. So,
that's what I would expect at that point when I see Madcaps is, okay, I probably don't want to engage too much anymore because an Apostle might show up and then revive a whole bunch of shit. So, at that point, you want to choose your engagements more carefully. I don't know how the Reclamation has changed since then, but... obviously, in my case, it was Apostles are out. I better, make sure I kill them or make sure I win this fight.
Yeah. All right, yeah. Well, that was a really an enjoyable and entertaining match. I think the whole Group A thing worked out quite well. I'm very happy that, obviously, the game survived the whole way, barring a couple of, lag moments here and there. There was really no technical issues. I did spot a couple of bugs, one of which was actually kind of severe, which was the whole worker, rallying, the return rate stuff getting messed up. It did affect Benno's harvesting of the 3rd geyser in that top right area of Maim Street. I don't know that it would have changed the outcome of the game because he was floating a lot of money anyway, but something that obviously feels a little bit bad in the competitive
workers
sense.
On the bottom left too.
Yes, for the minerals of Neblime as well. So, maybe you can say it evens out because it affected both players, not equally, but in a similar way. Definitely something that we'll look to rectify. Maybe we can even get it done before Group B starts just to remove that because it's clearly an issue, but and not something where we're changing the balance per se. We're just fixing a bug. So I don't feel too bad about about a hotfix there if we can deploy it. But either way, overall, quite a compelling set of maps and really interesting stuff. You know, like
It was very silly.
yes, yeah, very silly matches, but I think also showing like that Equilibrium game is the one that I shouted out, and it's because like it isn't just one mistake kills you. I mean, one mistake sets it off, but one mistake doesn't end your whole like sort of game in that moment. You can fight your way out of it, and that
Mystery
is
had to really work for that win, even in spite of that.
And I think that's like my ideal game state, right? Because it could have stabilized, and Mystery could have still won later on, right? But it also could have gone the other way, where Neblime was able to, you know, jump out and start taking, and maybe it would have exposed
was able
something
to push
else.
him out of the main and take control of the expansion again, in part for an amount of time.
Yeah.
You know, it's just Mystery kept the pressure up and was able to secure that win at that point. If he hadn't have done that, Neblime would have bounced out of that, and then the map might have evened out a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, really awesome stuff, I think. So it is 5:45 my local time. We will start Group B at 9 p.m. tonight, so that is in a little bit more than 3 hours. And when we do that, we will have the Beaver, we will have the Shambler, and we will have Biddy B himself, Ben Taberski. So there will be some interesting actions there. We'll see who ends up claiming victory and who ends up going against it. But I will say, do you have a prediction for, like, it sounds weird to say because Mystery Meat won 4-0. But I feel like Neblime, with how fast he's been able to learn, could be a sleeper pick for, like, you know, surprising and making the finals anyway for a rematch. Because the way that the bracket works out is Mystery Meat will go up against the loser of Group B. Not the loser, the second place. And the first place of Group B will go up against Neblime. Neblime could actually end up taking that series and making it to the final for a rematch. I feel like it could be possible, without, of course, knowing who's actually there and who's in form.
Well, I think if Shambler has polished up,
yes,
and gotten back into form, he'll be pretty strong. And he's a different style of player, and it's a different race.
Yes, he's playing Zerg, yeah. So,
and that could be really difficult for Neblime to deal with, because Shambler is a very different style of player than Mystery. And like, I was able to take wins off of nearly everybody towards the end of my play, but with Shambler it was still like 50-50 because the early game was so difficult for me to deal with. And any early game that he ended up getting even the slightest bit of advantage in, I couldn't win usually. So it was usually like the longer games I had to draw out and then take advantage of that when I was at my strong.
You might gas out in the late game, yeah, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in like, for Neblime, a lot of the games that he's, you know, showing like the biggest strengths in for me at this stage is like the mid to the late game, where he's able to kind of like learn from the lessons and kind of like catch up. And I think that I imagine he's probably gonna take some time between now and then to kind of like reflect on what's going on, and he's gonna come out of it with a bunch more information. And yeah, I think that, you know, if it comes to like Shambler versus Mystery, I think that's gonna be very interesting too, because they both have that experience, but they both have, you know, what I think is there's definitely like some weaknesses in their late game play, both of them, and especially with the, you know, being rusty now, perhaps. But now Mystery has had a chance to catch up on that and refresh, and he started to show a lot more confidence as time went on. So we'll see if Shambler shows that same thing. At the same time, though, I've seen Biddy B play against Shambler and almost win in some very silly games.
Yeah.
I've seen Beaver perform quite well too. So I think with that, it's not really decided as either. With this one here, I favored Mystery Meat just because, well, I've seen him do really well, and, you know, I've seen him do really well in the FFAs and the other games. So I knew that at the very least he was mechanically consistent. I haven't actually played against him hardly at all.
Yeah.
So I have no actual real measure of how good he is versus, like, say, Shambler when Shambler is playing his best, or against you with the innumerable games I played you where the only games I really took off of you were by being stupid. So...
well, yeah, it's also mind games too, right? That's like you said that you could tilt Shambler. I've certainly felt that. Where one thing that Kian said to me earlier, I'm sure he won't mind me repeating this here, is that if Shambler can keep his words per minute down, so he's not typing all the time, he could certainly challenge for the throne here. So it could be interesting to see. So yeah.
So it's yeah, but no, I think both Benno and Neblime performed well beyond, like, I had no experience with learning how to play beforehand, but I always come into something with like a low expectation because the project is completely different than normal Brood War.
Yep.
You know, it's all the units are completely different, and much less something like the economic model, the damage system, and stuff like that. But you could tell between the both of them that they just came into it with more general experience than definitely I did, especially in short term.
Yes.
And as a result, they were able to perform way more consistently. And you could look at how they were playing and say, well, most of the flaws I'm seeing with the playing is they obviously just don't know what to do because they're not brushed up on really what the best thing to do is.
Yes.
And then the fact that they kind of like I said, like they learned from what Mystery did to them, and then they employed those same things against each other.
Yes.
You know, with mixed degrees of success, but still showing that they just kind of really understood really where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do within a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, again, given time, like if you have another tournament,
Yeah.
and they both show up for that tournament, they're definitely both going to be names to watch out for sure.
There you go. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I mean, maybe, hopefully, you know, obviously Neblime joined at the last second to sub in for Luciferius, who ended up bowing out of the Group B. So we swapped him and Beaver in that sense. And it's really interesting, I think, to see how that worked out. So, yeah, cool stuff overall. Definitely a big fan, and hopefully it draws some more interest and influence. I think it's very likely that the next time we have a tournament, we might have more groups, or we might just have a completely different set of players for some of them, and that would be interesting in and of itself. But of course, the longer the games go, the more unknown the whole economic model is, and the tech pacing and stuff maybe could have been a little bit more delayed, where we have to go a little bit longer to get to Data Latir and stuff. So certainly more adjustments in the balance, but we'll hold off on any changes in that sense because, you know, integrity of the tournament and all that, we got to make sure that everything is the same for all the games and all that. And then, you know, we'll move on and make changes. But definitely looking forward to seeing it, and certainly looking forward to the next tournament that we run. Of course, we got to focus on this one and see this one through first. But really excited, and definitely very happy with how this worked out. So quite cathartic, you could say. Like you were saying, when you work on this project, you always imagine like what other people would do and how they would work out if it was, you know, there's not really anything on the line here per se. We'll talk a little bit more about that after the tournament ends, but because I have some ideas for that. But the idea of like, oh, this is a proper tournament, like there's competition, there's casters, there's the whole shebang, it's all live, and the format being kind of interesting. I'm sure it's very unlikely that too many people have played in an Ascension-style format where they pick the opponent and they scout they're witnessing the game as it's happening, or they're watching on stream or whatever. Like, definitely interesting stuff, and yeah, it's cool. I know that you said you won't be available for the 9 p.m. group, or the it's 6 p.m.
I'm gonna try to be available, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, if it works out, that would be awesome.
Other events, and you know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it works out. If not, of course, I'll bring the games solo and live. And then I honestly think the live experience is much better than the replays, where it would probably be good to do playoffs live too. So I guess we can just try to organize so that we're both available and all 4 playoffs players are available. Or even if we have to do it more piecemeal, where it's like we play, you know, one set.
Well, if we have like one matchup, like let's say you have 2 players.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have their games. Then you find a time that works with them.
Yeah.
You know, you could do it that way if it's too difficult, because I think everybody's time zone is really different. Yeah,
well, we thinned out the Europeans, I think. Mystery meets American. I think Neblime is probably over here too. Oh, he might be European. And then on the side of Group B, it's all Americans. So that's definitely...
Giddy up, Cowboys.
There it is. Yeah, that's definitely going to make things easier logistically. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully you can make the 6 p.m. your time group, and that'll be in, like I said, about 3 hours. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Baguettes. Who's going to win?
What'd you say?
Burgers versus baguettes. Who's going to win?
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it works out. We could have you never know. We could have an all-American showdown. So we'll see. But Neblime, I think, actually is probably European. He said he couldn't play late, and 9 p.m. isn't that late for an American. So I assume he's actually off in Europe somewhere. But, you know, we'll get the answer to that question later on.
Well, maybe his mom will actually literally beat him to death with a shoe if she finds him out after curfew.
Could happen.
Some of them are like that.
Well, you know, on top of that, I mean, after all of the feet back and forth, I think he should be quite adept at dodging shoes. I mean, surely. Mm-hmm. So there is that. So.
God, that George Bush reflex.
Yeah. Sometimes I find that again and watch it just because it's so funny. But
it's just like, this man.
How does he
has
do
had
that?
shoes thrown at him before. This is ingrained into him.
Yeah.
It's hardened. You know, it's like how somebody said that when he watched how Putin walks. And Putin walks with what he called like a gunslinger gait or something like that, where he like always like favors one side because that's where his pistol would be.
Right. Yeah.
That's from being in a KGB. Well, with Bush, he's obviously got that shoe slinger.
Yes.
He's had shoes thrown at him before. He's trained.
Yeah, and he can give it back too. You better watch out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Group A has concluded. Mystery Meat exiting in first place, and Neblime clinching out the second in a very close series against Benno, who unfortunately doesn't take any wins, but like you said earlier, Mesk showed remarkable adaptation and skill very early on. So certainly players to watch out for. We'll be back in a couple hours with Group B, where it's going to be the Beaver, the Shambler, and the Biddy Bee going up against each other. First matchup yet to be decided, but it will start things off on Repulsion, just like this group, and we'll see where things go from there. Thank you for joining me, Mesk, and thanks everybody for playing.
That's a lot of B's in Group B, just so you know.
Is it at least 3? B, T, B?
I think so, yeah.
And Group B? Yeah. Oh, there's the Beaver. Well, if you just think about the player names, it's 3, so just do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, is this is B everywhere.
All right. The Bambler. Bye.